Welcome back to another episode of The Sweet Spot. This is John Sherman from the Four Foundations of Golf. And as always, I'm joined by
Recovering Adam from Adam Young Golf.
you were sick again. I feel like all the
It's
episodes you've been
killed
doing
me.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I'm
We'll
I'm
get you
I'm better.
we'll
I think
get you
I'm
through
better.
it.
What were you saying?
I don't know. I don't know what it was, but it's knocked me down to like 30% and kept me there for quite some time, over a week now.
Good. That'll be relevant to my announcements. I have two quick announcements to start the episode. One, I launched a separate YouTube channel with our friends from Pete's Golf. Many of you know Woody Lashin, one of the most popular guests on our podcast over the years. So we started a separate YouTube channel called Golf Gear Explained, where we're talking about equipment and club fitting and educating people and getting past all the marketing stuff. So it just launched about a month or two ago. So you can check it out on YouTube, Golf Gear Explained. And my second announcement, apropos to what you said, Adam, I haven't taken allergy medicine in years, and I took a non-drowsy Allegra this morning, and I now feel drowsy. So between me possibly falling asleep at the wheel here and your illness, our, I think, four-time guest, Scott Fawcett, might need to carry us today. Welcome back, Scott, on that note.
Typically, I'm a
Welcome back.
wind-up doll, so that shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, we're just gonna like set you off. We'll say something and then you just go. And then if I wake up from this drug-induced coma, I will add to it.
You're not upselling this episode very well.
We always like to set the table, but yeah, it was weird. I've had seasonal allergies for the first time in a while, and I haven't taken meds in a long time. I'm like, oh, let me just take an Allegra. Usually no effect, but today it does. So, in any event, what's been going on, Scott? I think it's been a couple of years since we've had you on the show. What's new in the decade world?
Not much. We're working on a pretty cool project right now that we're calling trying to go a little bit wider to just breaking 90. So it's going to be like a decade breaking 90 where we're going to really get in there. And should I mention maybe go look at your book and steal some of your ideas from it? I'm sure the four
It's
foundations.
public knowledge at this point. Just suck it
Yeah,
out.
yeah. Because
You're in the book plenty, Scott. So
we're going to go
get
over like what someone needs to learn that really doesn't know much about golf, like just ball flight laws, just your really basic stuff to try to get them pointed in the right direction, and then obviously the drills that we've had success with in the normal decade app, but kind of dumb them down a little bit for that really inexperienced player, and then hopefully try to get the people that are in those 90s and hundreds and trying to break 100, break 90, get them moving in that direction, and then from there they can graduate into the normal decade app and keep the progress going. So I'm actually pretty excited about that. We kind of tried that a few years ago by creating foundations, which that was really just taking the elite content and breaking it up into 6 months, which I never really was too worried about trying to go wider. We've got a great little business as it is, but the more I've thought about it, they're I feel Scrooge McDucky, like just trying to make as much money as possible when you're just keep releasing new products and stuff. But it kind of finally has dawned on me there is another segment of the population that really wants to improve at golf that we're just not even addressing. So why not try to help them and make
well,
some money at the same time?
yeah, well, you got to pay those bills, right? It is interesting just because I mean it's something I've struggled with at times with when you're producing coaching content online or wherever it's, whatever medium it shows up on, you don't know the level of golfer who is listening or consuming it. And yeah, there are some concepts that are universal, like ball flight laws, but how you frame things and even some of the advice you're giving does change based on skill level, experience, obviously the scoring barriers you want to break. I do think it's one of like the hardest parts of online golf content in general is like
I once
segmenting
drew
this.
I once
But
drew
yeah,
a chart. Sorry, I'll jump in here. I once drew a chart that is level of golf ability on the bottom versus whether I like this post, and it's a very, very, very thin line. And in that line, if the level matches perfectly, so if your post matches exactly what someone knows, they say, "I love this post." If it's too high, if it's slightly above their current level, they say, "This is too complicated." If it's slightly below it, they say, "I hate this post. It's too easy." So you've
well,
got
it's a
to
very similar
match it
idea that you,
exactly.
you can read a book 2 years apart, 5 years apart from each other. And the first time you read it, it's just like, this is garbage. And you read it a few years later and it's your favorite book you've ever read. You just weren't ready for it at the time. And I can definitely see where the post, and I can see where a lot of golf content's the exact same way. You're just not even ready for it. But like understanding ball flight laws, the first time I ever, I mean, I've played a moderately successful professional career. while not even understanding ball flight laws. I had finished up in 2001, and Como in 2006 or 7 was the first. I mean, when I first went out and took a lesson from him, he's just like, I mean, do you understand what they're doing with ball flight laws and everything now? I'm like, I've never heard of that.
What's
I mean,
that?
just understanding that the face is pointing left of the target and your path is further left than that. Like, the human body is an incredible vehicle. And if you tell it the right thing to do, it's really good at doing it. And so if you're telling it the face needs to be right of the target and path left of that, well, that, oh yeah, you flare a lot of shots, but like once you know, yeah, this face should be left, that's where it's going to start. That's just huge information. And again, for the amateur who's battling this slice, so they keep aiming further and further left and just exacerbating the problem. It's like just getting that hurdle out of the way as early as possible in a golf career, I think, is huge.
Even that, I go through different levels with players. You know, the complete beginners, I just tell them that, hey, face controls where the ball goes. Pretty much, if the face is more right, all else being equal, the ball will finish more right. So it's accurate, but it's not complete. And then you add on things like, hey, this is if
Angle
the
of attack.
path is more left, the ball is going to go more right, things like that. And then you add on things like gear effect, even. So, yeah, hey, you could swing left with an open face and get that ball to still draw if you hit it out of the toe.
Well, and that's one thing, because obviously I'm Mr. One Shape with the driver, and I did see Robert McIntyre talking about intentionally towing it when he wants to draw it. And like when he said that, I was like, I've never really thought, because the main problem that I have with working the driver both ways is when, for as a fader, for me to try to draw it, obviously I need to shift path right and keep face over there right. I'm going to get stuck, and I know instructors hate that word, but I'm going to get stuck and hit a double cross. But at least if I'm trying to tow it, my face to path relationship is going to be pretty much what I want it to be. I'm still kind of putting a fade swing on it. I'm just towing it. It actually did it in that video with Cordy when we were playing Old Memorial down in Tampa. Number 9 is just a hole that, if you do double cross, the way the wind was coming in and off the right, it was just going to flare up into the wind and not be a problem. But if I hit my normal shot, I was not going to be able to get home on this par 5. And I literally was just like, this is actually the exact spot I should try to do this. And I just hit a perfect high toe bomb 7-yard draw, but it was never going to be a shot that I got stuck and double crossed 50 yards or something like that. It was just going to be a shot that, okay, I probably skanked it or just hit a little wipey fade down the middle, but I was never going to get in trouble if I don't hit the shot I'm trying to.
I'm going to
That's
have a look in
interesting.
my.
I never heard that quote. I've never heard of I mean, it makes sense. I mean, you're giving up a little bit of ball speed and probably spin efficiency by doing that, but I've never heard, a high level golfer saying, I'm going to intentionally hit it on this part of the face to work the ball. It's interesting.
I'm gonna have a look at my data and see how much you can get out of it, because I do have, because GC Quad measures face and path pre-impact, so you can see, I can see in the data, hey, if you have a square path, square face, the ball will land on the target. But then you can also see if you hit out the toe or the heel, it lands on the target, but you get a different shape there. So obviously heel will take more of a fade there, toe will take more of a draw there, but I haven't actually looked at as to how much curvature you can get out of heeling or towing it.
My
I'll
main
get
thing
back
was,
to you
this
on that.
hole was the exact distance that I could not get a driver in a 3-iron. I go driver, mini driver, 3-iron. It was the exact distance with the wind 10-ish off the right that my fade driver, I was not going to be able to get a 3-iron there. But if I could at minimum just knock the spin axis off, if I could just keep it vertical, I was going to get another 10 to 15 yards out of a good shot. If I miss hit it, it doesn't matter. I couldn't really get home in 2. I'm going to roast a 3-iron up there somewhere short of the green, about the same place I was going to anyways. But if I happened to pull it off, I was going to get another 15-ish yards at least, which would have put my 3-iron most likely right around the front edge of the green, which is, again, it's just exactly what I did. It was kind of cool. I mean, again, because it doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know that I would tell a 12 handicap to try to tow it, but I'm pretty damn good with the driver. So me just moving it, I don't even know what it is, a half inch up and right. I mean, it wouldn't be 3/4 of an inch, I don't think. Maybe somewhere in there.
No, 10 millimeters is enough to significantly change it. 1 centimeter. What's that in inches? I forget. Is it a third
No,
of an
I
inch?
no idea.
About a quarter
You
of an
would
inch, I
switch the
think.
metric on me. I'm just a
Yeah.
stupid
Yeah.
American.
We don't think that way
Yeah, I
here.
don't know why they do. Yeah, but GC Quad works in millimeters. Works in miles per hour,
Because it's made by someone smart.
millimeters, and yards.
Have you ever seen the Nate Vargas that
I was
joke where
literally,
they're
Scott, I was just about to say that. The
motion
SNL skit
picture?
is one of the funniest clips
Yeah, I've
I've
seen
ever
that.
You've
seen.
seen
It's
it,
so
Yeah, I've
good.
seen that.
I mean, I'm not going to go through it. It is
Everyone
amazing.
has to watch. If you have not watched, I don't really watch SNL much anymore. My wife's like, you gotta watch these two things they did
What would
where
it be?
he
What
like,
would you like? Nate Bargazette. I don't even know how you say his
yeah, it's like
name.
SNL, Nate.
Washington crossing the
Yeah,
river or something like
yeah.
that.
Watch the two. It is one of the
Yeah,
funniest things I've ever seen. So
it really is good.
side note,
When
but
I
yeah, we don't make sense with the metric and imperial, whatever it is.
when I mention how good the metric system is, people say, "Oh, you're biased because you're British." I'm like, we don't use the metric system in Britain. Like my mum uses Fahrenheit.
Stones.
We use yards on the golf course. We drive in miles an hour. And then I go over to Europe to live, and I'm like, wow, this is really effective. This is really efficient. I can track my calories much better now out here.
Scott, we're going to talk about your tournament prep this episode. Before we get into that, like, it's been, as I said, a couple of years since we've had you on the show. Like, anything stick out in your mind that, you saw in the professional game? I know you guys create content for your members at Decade. Just some lessons over the last 2 years, maybe something you changed your mind on or a new way of looking at something that sticks out. Any highlights to share?
I mean, honestly, I just watched the Masters last week. I just thought it was really interesting to watch how many double crosses. I've always said that you double cross about 25% of the shots. You try to work with drivers specifically the other direction. And I feel
What's your
like that
definition
number,
of a double cross?
Oh, yeah, we just
Sorry,
talked about this.
yeah, this is one that
if you were
is
trying
like,
to hit a draw and you hit kind of a push fade. I mean, so like me as a fader, my face and path is obviously left of my ultimate target. So a double cross to me is typically in my experience, shifting path is the hardest thing to do in golf, especially with the driver, because you can't alter ball position much, if any. But if I'm trying to hit a draw, I'm gonna get my path right. But getting my face left of path is a really difficult thing to do. So I'm for sure probably going to be able to move my path to roughly where I wanted to, but I'm going to leave my face open to that. So now I've hit a block cut,
Yeah.
which is again
So,
exactly what you saw guys doing on two. Not as much because most of the guys I saw did hit three wood there, but 2 and 13, it just blew my mind how many double crosses you saw out there. Where I mean, Scotty, Rory, just the guys that are at the top of the leaderboard are just
yeah,
felt
Rory was in that bunker three
Sunday. Well,
Three 3 days
number
in a row. He
number
cleared the
2.
bunker on Friday, I think, but he just couldn't turn the ball.
Yeah, I mean, and Sam
Same
Burns.
with same with 13 as well for Rory. The only day he hit the draw was the final round, but he was in the trees all 3 days and he made
Yeah,
birdie somehow.
it was wild for him not to. I mean, because what I really thought too was interesting was in the final round on 7 and 17, two holes that shape doesn't matter. He did go to a fade, which to me means that's the shot he actually, like when he's nervy, feels more comfortable hitting. And I'm just like, dude, if that's the case, get a driver that's optimized for it. Get it to where you've got, 13-degree launch, 2,200 RPM spin, 187 ball speed, and just hit this hammered flat cut. And then have a mini driver or three wood, whatever, that you put back in your stance and hit that roasty draw. If he had a 300cc TaylorMade, Titleist, whatever mini driver with 13 degrees loft set to higher, and he puts it back into stance. I actually hit my mini driver with that shot significantly lower than my driver. My driver launches at 14, but when I've hit this tight draw with my mini driver, it launches at like 10. It is just the most hammered bullet draw you can imagine. And it's Rory would just own that shot. And it's so frustrating watching it because, like, you really don't lose that much distance compared to your driver. And so he could definitely hit a roasty mini driver and get home on 13. He could definitely do it on 2. And 10 is obviously, you're not trying to get home or anything, but 10 is obviously fine. So the fact that he actually did go to that, the reason that I would want him to do that is the shot that he hit on the 72nd hole on 18, then that shot would completely disappear from his bag. And I said that on social media, and just people flamed me like you can't even imagine. I'm like, if he's trying to cut a driver that is built for a draw, if he was trying to fade the driver that's built for a fade, you cannot hit a stuck flary cut. That's just not, it's not what would happen. And I do believe it'd be interesting to know why he didn't just go to three wood, because he's definitely going to get it around the corner unless he just whiffs it. My thought process is from right, there's nothing but trees and then number 10. Like, you're not going to have an unplayable right, but you see people hook one left and
Well,
get an unplayable.
I was talking to someone saying that 10, you can get he got fairly lucky on 18 where he ended up. Like, he could have had a situation where double was in play there for sure.
No doubt about it, but he's not taking an unplayable, which is the main way you're getting to double.
Yeah,
He's
unless you got
most
like a
likely going to be
backwards
able to
bounce.
lay
Yeah.
the ball up either up 10 or up
Yeah.
18 and be fine. He's not going to have an unplayable unless he hits the tree on the right. But left, you do see it all the time. And so my thought was he's maybe worried about smothering a 3-wood if he does just hit it, and that can run out and get in a lot of trouble left. More
Yeah,
trouble than right.
or I'm sure like in the moment, like who arguably the greatest with the driver in his hand ever, go with the club that, you know,
Yeah, but
that's your club.
he was
And I
not
know he
last
was
week.
struggling. Well, that's what I thought was actually interesting about him winning again was that he didn't really have his golf swing the entire tournament. I know he got kind of hot with the putter on Thursday and Friday. He chipped in a couple of times, but it was actually kind of interesting to watch him win, I guess, again, with less than his best stuff because he wasn't doing that 5, 6 years ago as a major. He would have just fallen apart.
I never double checked this stat. I assume it's correct, but he had 12 birdies more than Scotty.
Yeah,
I mean,
he was well, he was hot with his he made a lot of putts on Thursday and
yeah, I
Friday.
mean,
Scott, couldn't you make an argument here that a double cross is actually better on that hole?
on
Because
18.
out of the errors, the possible. So, you know, when I play a strategy, I'm thinking about, okay, if I get this right, this is going to be my outcome. You get it right, you draw it around that corner, you've got a shot into the par five. I'm talking
The
about the
double
par
cross
five now.
on 2 and 13 is for sure better than smothering it.
13, is it? Okay, yeah, but
Yeah,
yeah,
oh, for sure.
exactly. So you almost want your error to be a double cross there to flare it out right and kind of leave it, because at least you've got a playable shot there. You can lay it up.
But for a guy like Rory, you shouldn't double cross your stock shot ever. You should
What is his
never.
stock shot now, though? Is
Stock
it a
shot's a
fade
draw
now?
with the driver.
Right.
If you just
He's
His
approach
always
it,
a
DNA is
drawer,
a
but
draw player, but I think he's gone to a fade later on in his career.
he's definitely neutralized it over time because he used
but
to
he's
be like
never committed
9
to it for
in
like
out or something.
he's never committed to it for 3 straight months. I'm only going to hit a fade. He'll try it for like a week and then he just doesn't like it. But on the point being, Scotty, a guy that fades his driver, when he's trying to draw it, he's going to double cross flare it, and that's a good thing, but he's going to smother it almost as often. And then you see that with Sam Burns or whoever. There was a number of guys that hit it over their left and in the creek. I think Sam was one of them. You should never double cross your stock shot. That should literally never happen at that level. It should just. I haven't hit a double cross with my driver, meaning like a big hook, in 10 years. I
I
mean,
thought you said a double cross was the other way of your path. So trying to draw it and flaring it right.
No,
yes,
he's
but
well,
on
his
my
stock
stock
is
shot,
fade. He's saying he has not hit a pull hook trying
I
to hit
haven't
his
hit a
stock
pull hook
fade.
while trying to hit a fade in
Okay, yeah.
10
You're fade
years.
fader. Sorry.
Yeah, you're just at that level. You should never double cross your stock shot. I mean, Vietnam happened in order for you to do that because it just literally shouldn't happen. The face should not get so far left of path
Well,
as a fade.
so I guess your definition, we talked about this in an episode, I don't know how many episodes ago it was at this point, but we were kind of thinking about like, well, what technically is a double cross? And I agree with your definition, but your description now is like the face getting so far left. So you're hitting this like smothered pull hook.
Well,
But at
well,
some
no, by
point,
definition, if I'm trying to hit a fade, the double cross is a pull hook. That's
yeah,
never going to happen.
but
That still is what the double cross is.
yeah, but let's go back to a few years when Scotty won his first Masters. I remember on Sunday, he pull hooked, not severely, but his first 4 or 5 holes, he was struggling with a closed club face. Obviously, he was nervous, but it wasn't like a crazy pull hook. Technically a double cross, but not like a horrible, horrible double cross.
I'll hit a pull, and
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I'll hit a ball that
Yes,
falls left.
that's
But
what I'm
that's part of
talking
my
about.
65-yard dispersion.
Yes, yeah.
That's
Okay,
included in it.
now we're
That's
getting to where
included
we want to
in
go.
that. So
Yes,
technically, my start line, let's just say we're working with 60 yards. The middle 30 is the fairway. So my start line is 15 yards left of my center line. I've got 15 yards of pull and slight draw. I'm
yes.
never going to miss that cone left.
That's the distinction I was trying to create.
I
So
will
when you
never miss that cone
okay,
left.
so when you say
I
double
will.
cross, it's way outside
Yeah.
your okay.
Yeah, then that's just not going to happen. If you, I mean, again, if you go watch the video when I shot 65 with Garrett when I had him out for the one day member guest, I hit 3 T balls that were flares. So the only tee shots that I hit that were bad were all just these wipey flares because my path is consistent. I just for whatever reason left the face too open, but I'm just never personally going to get the face materially left of path. Again, it's just not going to happen. And so watching Rory double cross his stock shot is just shocking to me.
So where's your start line in the six? Sorry, I know you said this. I just didn't catch it. You've got your 60-yard dispersion circle.
If I
Where's
hit
your start line? About fifth.
perfect draw for a perfect fade for me is about a 10-ish, maybe 15-yard cut. So if I've got a 60-yard cone, 30 yards being the center of the fairway, my true target, I'm going to start my body lines, club face, everything is about 10 or 15 yards left of that. If I hit a perfect shot, it'll hammer cut about 12-ish yards right on that center line. I might hit anything up to a 15-yard pull or a
Right.
slight draw, but it's never going to hook 20 yards on me.
So it's
And then
not.
I've got
So it's
45 yards of flare in me. So
yeah.
from my start line, which is going to be pretty good typically, if I hit the flare, my ball is going to start down the center line and cut 30 yards from there. That's
So you're
my
okay
mental
with it
right.
being up to a 15-yard double cross. It'll still stay within your boundaries, though, so you don't class that as a double cross, right?
For me, it's really just more of a hot pull though,
Yeah.
because my path is left of that 10 or 15 yards, which is why I'm hitting a cut. So if I square the face perfectly to my path, that should be right up the left side of the 60-yard cone.
15 yards
I mean,
left, yeah.
I'm kind of with you in how you're defining it is like I would think like if I hit a double cross, it's a shot where I'm mostly hitting like a straightish little cut off the tee now. It would be like, oh man, like smother hook, like in the trees, like total jailhouse type shot. That to
Well, that's
me,
what
like,
people ask me. What is a double cross if you're trying to hit it straight? I would just say it's either a smother or a flare. It's just
yeah,
either
well,
direction big.
exactly. Yeah. And
So
then
it's
for some,
outside of the dispersion, right?
yeah, which
That's
I think
that's
is an important distinction to make. That's why I was kind of like pushing. I'm like, well, technically you're double crossing a shot that's in play, but that's not. It's how are you arriving at a foul ball? And I guess the
Well,
calculus on the one shot shape is if you're trying to work it in both directions, does the opposite of your stock create more foul balls than the stock does?
billion
Which I
percent
agree
it
with you.
does.
I agree with you
Billion
on that
percent
for
it does.
sure.
Otherwise it would be your stock shot. I mean, that's like by definition. It's just that if that weren't the case, that would be your stock shot. I don't think there's any way anyone could argue both shots would be the same size shot pattern. I mean, you would literally be the golfing god if that's the case. You have one shot that is better than the other one. Period. Especially once you get to the low single digit and for sure the plus handicap side. And so my whole thought process is always again now we're talking even with the irons. Even with the irons, the goal of a golf lesson is to make your shot pattern as small as possible. Like that's what we're trying to do here. And if I can accomplish that by not trying to work it the other way ever, I just I don't see how that's a bad thing because now let's say okay, so I play a fade 100% of my shots all the way through the bag. And I'm a +3 right now. And I've actually probably drank too much of my own Kool-Aid. I actually cannot hit a draw now. It's a problem. Because there are times when you need to hit one out of the trees. But with an iron, so let's say I've got 180, winds off the left, pins in the back left, and I need to hit like a little flighty draw in order to get it anywhere close to the pin. I'm like, that hole, the scoring average is going to be high. I just need to hit the green and two putt it, and I'm picking up strokes against the competition. I don't need to make a birdie on that hole at all. I don't even need to get a look at one. I need to hit the green as consistently between 20 and 40 feet as I can and two putt my face off. But if I try to hit that draw, now I've moved my start line further right. I've moved my path right of that. And if I get stuck and hit the double cross, I've got the wind off the left, I've moved my start line right, and I've hit a block cut. That is always off the planet right.
Yeah. Yeah.
100% of the time, it's off the planet right. So I do believe that even when the wind is off the left, you need to hit your stock shot as much as physically possible. You can straighten it out some. I mean, I might try to straighten it out a little bit, but I'm never going to switch to a draw.
Yeah. I think that's somewhere we both agree. And I think on our social media debates, this often gets lost, is that I'm okay, and I even promote, just like you said, there's going to be one. If you test fade and draw, or in my case, test straight, you will find one of them will come out better. One of those motor patterns will have a tighter dispersion. And that's what I do with players. And we say, hey, this is better, even if it's for short term, even if it's, hey, this is better for this week. Go out and play that one shot shape that's better. Our discussion or argument in the past has been that I've been okay with a more neutral shape being okay. As
I
opposed
just
to
think
you have to hit everything draw or fade.
what is your ball speed with driver?
It's very low. It's like 150 right now.
And I
I'm
think that's
pathetic.
fine. I mean, again, I definitely when I'm talking about the driver moving one
Yeah.
direction, I'm definitely kind of talking about people with more ball speed. I mean,
All right.
I probably could clarify that more. If you're not hitting it very hard, you're probably just not putting that much side spin on it anyways. It's why the LPGA players, they hit it so straight, it's incredible. They're just not hitting it quite hard enough to really get it offline. And obviously the majority of players that I work with are elite and or PGA Tour Corn Ferry type male players, and they hit it so hard, and you better know which way it's falling. And trying to be neutral on that speed is a really difficult thing to do. With irons, I don't care. I really don't care with irons. I think the main argument that you and I don't agree on as much is more the block versus random. But then when we dig into the weeds on it, we see that we
Yeah, we
agree a
agree
bit
on
more.
more than that. We
Yeah,
agree
I
on
mean,
more than that than you'd say. I would say as well, like you can't define someone as you are a drawer, you are a fader, you are neutral, because no one's any of those really. There's a whole spectrum. Like even when I was a drawer of the golf ball, I would draw maybe 90% of my shots, and then I would class it as double cross it 10% of the time and flare it out right. But I would have X dispersion size. Now that my path is more neutral, I get more of a kind of flaring out butterfly effect. You could say that I get almost every shot is a double cross in a way. Or let's just say on other days, like you saw the video that I posted recently where most of the shots were draws. Those days I'm drawing about 60% of my shots. So you would say that 40% are double crosses, other side of my path, but they're still within the ideal dispersion. So it's okay, really. And that's something that I think we both agree with,
yeah.
but lots of people jump on social media and they say, "Oh, well, if your path is more neutral, you're going to get more double crosses." And it's like, well, it's okay if they're within the ideal dispersion size.
Again, with the irons, I agree with, and with the driver, if you're a lower ball speed player, I agree with, because especially even at lower ball speed, I do agree with the ping guys. The one argument they make is that a straight driver
Goes farther. Yeah.
goes
A
farther,
little
and
bit,
that
yeah.
Yeah.
offsets that.
Yeah.
They agree that a straight driver has a wider shot pattern. The computer modeling has a wider shot
Marginally,
pattern, even with
marginally.
that. And but they say that the increase in length offsets that.
Strokes gain positive.
Yeah, and my only statement to that is, okay, so a robot can't even hit it straighter by trying to hit it straight. Now, if you put someone with speed on it on 17 or 18 at Sawgrass, and they don't know which way it's going to fall, it's really difficult to stand up there and be fully committed. As opposed to even as a guy that fades it, I just know which railroad tie to aim it at and hammer a cut off of it. I just
Okay, so we're getting to a point where, a big question I want to ask you, because you seem to allude to the fact that a shaped shot is easier to hit or more consistent. There's not a reason in physics why that would be true, though.
there is
But
though.
what you're saying
There
to what
is
you're
though.
alluding to is a mental component to it, as in
No,
I can commit
there
to a shape.
is. As Sasho and those guys have illustrated, the
Oh, but it
further
was
the set.
tiny. It was
You just
tiny,
said
though.
there isn't a reason in physics. There is.
Yeah,
There
but
is a reason the modern driver wants to fade. There is a reason that everybody, except for Bryson and Rory that hit it hard, fade it. 100% of people not named Rory
what's
and
that
Bryson,
reason? What's that reason?
because the modern driver wants to fade. Then the
The
faster
modern
you
driver
swing it,
doesn't want to do anything. I've asked Sasho on this. He said you misinterpreted it. It doesn't
I don't know
want
how he
to do
could. It's exactly
anything.
what he
Can
said.
I can I can I ring
You
Sasha
can,
and
and we
bring him
can
in?
get Sasho on if you want.
Let me
He
text him.
said, "Shit, I'm getting coffee everywhere on me." He said you misinterpreted it. The modern driver doesn't want to do anything. The ball will do what you put the club face and the path on it to do. If you set up a driver for a fade, but you put a minus face on it, it's going to draw. I mean, there are plenty of guys out there
I
who
can
draw the
misinterpret him
driver.
saying the words exactly. The further the center of mass, I couldn't have made up these words. I don't know these words. The further the center of mass is off the shaft, the more that club wants to fade.
The harder it is to close the face, but that doesn't necessarily mean it wants to fade. It's just, if you put it in a robot
Fair
situation.
if you want, but you're just saying the opposite. I mean,
No, but
the
okay,
harder
so
to close the face is the center.
here's a scenario. Here's a scenario. Say you give a player who suffers with hooks, right? They present the face 3 degrees close at impact and they're hooking everything off the planet. And you give them a modern driver, you move the weight out. It will hook less. It doesn't mean it's going to fade. It just means it hooks less. So it doesn't want to fade. It just moves it in that direction, is what I'm saying. It moves it in that direction. It moves it
I mean, I
more
think
towards the right
I'll
direction.
just say that's semantics at best to me. But
Okay. Well, maybe it is, but that doesn't. Okay, so here's where that argument goes: is that you can't just tell everybody, "Hey, fade it with a driver."
I don't tell everybody fade it with a driver.
Okay,
I tell
no, I
everybody
know,
I
but
don't care
some
what
people
shape you hit.
interpret that. Some people interpret it. The modern driver
Then
wants to
people haven't
fade
listened to
as
me.
therefore faded.
Then they haven't listened to me all the way. I have never once said I prefer a fade. I do think that people that hit it hard are probably going to do better with a fade, and you'd better have a very, very interesting reason you're not. Like Bryson has the weakest grip possible, and that's why he's able to draw it as effectively as weird as that sounds. He's trying to snap hook it, and he can't. I mean, there's
Yeah,
a
he
reason he
supinates
does
a
that,
lot. Yeah. Hmm.
huh?
Yeah,
This
he
is
has a lot
the
of forearm roll to offset the grip. Yeah.
well, this is the
Well, he's got
importance
all his
of
joints are at the end range of motion.
Yeah.
And that's why his grip is so weak. And then he's just trying to move this lever as fast as physically possible and then trying to snap hook it. And because of the way they've set it up, he can't. I mean, it's funny because that's exactly where Como fixed Tiger's chipping. It's the same idea. His joints were at the end range of motion. And that's why it looked like a yip, because he was having to kind of like hop around that. And that's what fixed Tiger's chipping. And then that's what makes Bryson drive it the way it is. It's the same thing from the same instructor.
this is
Who
the
would have thought?
importance of long form content, right? Well, we were talking before we recorded how like it's very difficult to on like Instagram or wherever where it's like these short little snippets of information and you can't provide nuance and then the popcorn crowd starts pointing fingers and you can't fully explain yourself because everything gets lost in translation. And of course, like in golf, there is a lot of nuance to everything, right? Like you're not saying, yeah, so
What's
you're
on the
not
question?
saying that everyone has to fade it. You're just saying that, you know, that seems to be the path of least resistance. And but if someone is hitting
Players
the
with
ball
speed.
with speed, yeah, exactly. That's an important, you know, as you are trying to produce content for golfers who are shooting higher scores, like that's an important nuance, right?
I really didn't know whenever I said that. I've never played golf with Adam. I've never seen him post any. Like I was not guessing though when I said, "What's your ball speed?" I knew that answer was going to be not very high because I
Mhm.
do think you're a good player, but it's really difficult to hit that dead straight ball. There's a reason nobody on tour really tries to play a straight driver because
But they do
everyone on
shape it
tour.
less. They do shape it less than the average golfer.
Well,
Like
I've been
their
finding,
paths are pretty neutral.
in my opinion, the definition of great ball striking, and again, I know that there's more to ball flight laws than this, but just work with me. If we've got a target line and we've got a path, the smaller you can make that angle while consistently keeping the face between it, that to me is the definition of great ball striking. Because I do agree, the less curve we put on it, the better. But
But why
I
wouldn't it
want
just be like a tighter dispersion is the definition of a better ball striker? Because I
that's going
understand
to
what you're saying, and
what I
that is
just
a
said.
correlation.
What I just said is going to create that. The smaller you can keep that angle with the face in between it the most is going to result in the smallest shot pattern out there.
But what about me where okay, I could create a draw where 90% of them draw
A big
on the
swinging draw.
target. Right. No, not necessarily.
You could
But
create a smaller
90,
shot pattern.
85% of them, 85% of them draw. I could push my path to 5 degrees into out and get 85% of them a draw. Then you get that one standard deviation that double crosses, and you get that dispersion size that you like. Or I could make my path more neutral, sometimes even neutral, but let's just say more neutral. And now I get 60% of them to draw. So I'm getting fewer faces between the path and the target. I'm getting more double crosses, but my dispersion size tightens a little bit. And I
By the
know this
bigger hook, you're
because
saying?
no, by the smaller shape,
Well, again,
by the more double crosses
but
and the
that's, I mean,
smaller shape.
but that's again what I'm saying is I think that by definition, the smaller you can keep that while keeping face between it,
Yeah,
even
but
if it's
that second part of your sentence is important, while keeping the face between the path and the target. When I go more towards neutral, I don't do that as often. I get more double crosses, but a tighter dispersion, which is why my definition of a better ball striker is tighter dispersion, regardless of how many double crosses are within that dispersion.
but again, what I would say to that is when you're trying to hit the ball straight, I agree you don't really have a double cross. You've just got a bigger miss both directions.
So that's where double cross definition is important. If it's within your dispersion, you're not classing it as a double cross, right?
I would not, no. So like
Okay, yeah.
if you hit a 20-yard, if you're trying to play a dead straight driver and you hit anywhere between, let's call it a 25-yard draw and a 25-yard cut, so we've got a 50-yard shot pattern, I would
Yeah.
consider that within your shot pattern. I would say once it starts getting outside of that, it's not a great shot because it's going to be flary or smothery.
Perfect. We're getting to perfect definitions that we can both
Yeah, I
agree
don't know
on
what the hell we're
here.
talking about
I
though.
like
I think it's just, I mean, my interpretation of it is like what gives you the closest amount of balls finishing closer to your
in your
intended target.
dispersion,
The
yeah.
only reason that
In
I'm
your
liking my
dispersion.
definition more than the one with the bigger draw, so like we could create a smaller shot pattern by having a perfect face to path relationship that hits a 30-yard draw. But the reason I think that my definition is better is goes back to the ping guys because mine's going to go further. It's still going to be a functional shot pattern that goes further. Once the shot pattern becomes unfunctional, then I would go to, well, we need to put more curve on it. So, and this is where like Luke, his post today talking about curve and all this stuff. God dang it, I just lost my train of thought there.
Well, let me,
So his one was about you should be able to curve it, right? He wants you to have the ability to curve it. And I actually agree with Luke on this one. So,
No, no.
I
So,
mean,
so
let's
what I was
discuss
going to say
this.
is he says that you're going to get massively biased. Basically, he thinks if you only play a fade, you're eventually going to start playing a huge fade, and that's why you need to balance your swing out by going to a draw. And I'm like, why do you have to take it all the way to playing a draw? Why can't we just,
Yeah.
hey, let's just reel that face to path in a little bit here? You're getting to be too much of a wipey fade. Again, the only thing I have practiced for 10 plus years at this point is hitting a hammered fade. I don't ever get out of balance. It doesn't slowly turn into a 30-yard cut on me. It's the same thing every single time.
I think
This
it's
is
a
why,
matter of intent though. And this is where, again, getting back to what I just said is that when you don't have an opportunity to hash it out and really define it. So I could give an example of, people on the show have heard me say this a million times, but when I first got back into golf, my path was like 10 degrees into out, like crazy, like very extreme. And my intention of trying to hit a fade was bringing it to 6, 5, 4 degrees into out. I wasn't hitting a fade. I was just hitting less of a hook. That was my intention. Just like when you hear high level players being like, oh, I'm trying to do this. And you're like, well, if someone else tried that intention, it would be totally
Well,
irrelevant to them.
that's what I'm saying. You didn't have to go all the way to trying to hit a fade in order
Yeah,
to
yeah.
bring
It
that
was it
down.
was a fade feel to get a tight draw.
I think that's just what somebody said, like a lot of things. I think a lot of things in life, somebody said something along the way, and
Yeah,
it
yeah.
sounds like, oh, that sounds really smart. We're just going to go with that as being gospel. We've got to hit both shapes in order to keep your swing balanced. Or if you get to being too fade biased, too draw biased, just try to do less. I don't think you have to go all the way to the other side
well,
because
here's where,
this is a fight that I've gotten into with Finney. The idea is circling back to why would the driver want to fade? And Finney rips me apart on this because I personally, and I do actually believe potentially if you draw the driver, it would be easier for you to fade it because you could just kind of hold it off a little bit. But I'm telling you that as a guy that fades it exclusively, getting the face on the other side of path is an extraordinarily awkward feeling.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
really, really awkward feeling, especially with the driver. I can do it with mini driver because I'm moving that ball back in my stance and angle of attack and ball position is shifting my path, what I call artificially right. And then I just need to square the face to that. And that's going to produce a tight draw. That's not an awkward feeling for me, but that driver up in my stance, getting the face on the other side of path is really, really weird.
I mean, you can do that with setup. You could just line your body up more right if you want to hit a draw and close the face at
You still have
address.
to get the face right, left of path.
Yeah, close the
People,
face
that's
at
what
address,
people,
then grip it. Stronger grip.
That's a terrible idea with the driver.
Well, yeah, that's not to say it's a good idea. I'm just saying that it can be easier setup. Don't forget to change it from a fade to a draw requires maybe 4 degrees of path shift and maybe 2 degrees of face in relation to that path. That's all it needs to
I mean, it's got to be more than
change
that.
it.
What are you
No, it's
thinking?
not. It's not that much. It's about it. Okay, it's
Three left
about
to three right's what I think.
12 to 15 yards of curvature per degree of face change. 12 to 15 yards. So if you want to turn a 15-yard fade into a 15-yard draw, a couple of degrees at high speed would do it. Um, where I go on the discussion of fading versus drawing, I agree with you, but I also agree a little with Luke. And I think it just depends on the context, which is why we call this a sweet spot. We explore the scale, we zone in on what we agree on. If
But I
you
think that
train fading and drawing, which I've done in the past, right? And I'm speaking from a teacher's perspective. Say I've got someone who's slicing everything way off to the right, and I just try to get their path more towards neutral. Usually that's a slower process, and it's also one that tends to revert back very quickly as well. Whereas if you teach that slicer a draw shot or even a hook shot, they can quickly unlock the whole spectrum. Now, where I'd agree with you, Scott, is that it is easier to take it. I think it's easier to maintain your shape. And in fact, that's something that I would say I've changed over time is that if I have the slicer, I'm more likely to say what you would suggest, which is to take that slicer and just limit it, turn it into a fade over time and monitor it rather than teaching them the draw. So I do agree with you there. The caveat to that is, as you mentioned earlier, sometimes we need these different shapes on the golf course. So my
you don't
strategy
with
as a
drivers.
teacher,
You never need the other
no,
shape
no,
with
no.
drivers.
I agree there. I'm thinking more with irons. Yeah, definitely. My strategy is I teach people maybe 5% of let's try and shape it both ways, just so they have that ability a little bit. But let's just turn your stock shape and work on making it less extreme.
It's more about we always talk about it as the golden rule of doing the opposite of your fault, to explore the opposite end of the spectrum, to develop more face and path awareness, to make your stock shot more viable and less extreme. That's where it does have value with certain players, not for every single player. But
Yeah,
again,
for me, it helped.
yeah, me exploring how to hit a big slice and fade turned my hook into a draw slash straighter shot. And I almost feel like I'm playing golf with a fade intention now, but I'm not always fading it.
Where I think I'm different than Luke, and I feel like Adam does a good job of this, even though I know Adam believes in the studies about block versus random and everything. Luke holds too many opinions out as a factual statement. And I say it all the time. I'm not telling you I'm right. I'm telling you this is my experience as a really good player and as a great driver of the golf ball. I guarantee you right now, I'm one of the top 200 drivers of the golf ball on the planet. At 170 ball speed, and I don't miss a fairway. I can assure you I'm one of the best drivers of the golf ball on the entire planet. I know data. I do believe that even having the ability to alter the face to path relationship would make my stock shot suffer. I can't
Yeah,
prove that.
but as you said, if you're speaking as a truly 0.01% person, that is not relevant to the general golfing population who is struggling with a massive slice. That's where I would
And
push you
that's
on.
Yeah.
and that's what but again, that's what I feel like I'm doing differently. I'm telling you this is my anecdotal experience as a great driver, but
Yeah.
also what I observe every single week on the PGA Tour with the best players on the planet. This is what I observe with them, and that's still anecdotal. It's still a small data set. I'm simply telling you this is what they do. And for me to prove the counterfactual of, and this is the problem with studies, air quotes studies in golf, is for me to explore if I could actually work it both ways. I'd have to go practice that for a year before I could make the decision if I'm actually good at it. And I know I'm great at what I do right now. I'm not going to screw with that. And
Well,
there's
that's the
just no
point.
way.
No one's asking you, why would you don't need to do this because you don't have a
Yeah,
problem. We're talking about we've got fortunately thousands of people listening to this. They
not
got
now.
problems. They got big slices. They got big hooks. And we have found that in your toolkit to neutralize those issues, exploring the opposite path and face angle can be extremely helpful. Now, if you came to me as a fully baked potato, as a elite tour player, college player, and that's your stock shot, I'd be like, "Hey, don't I don't want you hitting massive draws right now. What are we doing here? There's no problem."
And
That
again,
that wouldn't
what
make
I would
sense
say
to
to that
me.
is I'm not an instructor, so I don't sit on the lesson tee and see this all day. I would just sit here and say right now, like, maybe I don't even have a problem with that. I don't think it's necessary, but I would say that you need to be doing that as a bad player, and you need to get out of doing that as quick as physically possible. You're still trying to find your swing. The one thing that's funny is I've got this thing that I still swing a couple times a week. This is how
Really?
gross this is. This is just a golf club cut off. I couldn't tell you how old this thing is.
Hell
And
is that?
you can't swing it. You can't swing it poorly. I don't know if I've got enough room here. You
Most
can't
people are listening to this, they're not watching. Scott's swinging some type of rope with a
It's a
towel at the end of it. What is that, a bungee
can't swing
cord?
it bad. Your hand path, everything, whatever modern words you want to use, it can't be swung poorly.
I think what we're talking about here is like there's two skills. There's stabilizing a movement, stabilizing a pattern, but there's also having the ability to change it. And what you're talking about, Scott, is you are the baked potato. You're trying to stabilize a good pattern. But for someone who, say, suffers with shanks, or someone who has those days where, oh my God, everything is flaring out right today, they need to be able to, well, how do I close the face a little bit more? So they need to learn those skills. At the good player level, at the baked potato level, you have those skills unconscious. It's unconsciously ingrained. Like we asked, what was the tall player who we had on from Callaway? Forget his name. We asked him, what do you do when you're shanking it one day? And he basically didn't have an answer for that. Now, he obviously doesn't suffer with shanks, and when they happen, he can unconsciously adjust that, but most people can't. The guys I play with, there are 15 handicaps. Once they shank one, I can pretty much guarantee the next 5, 6 shots are going to be shanks. They basically stick their head in the sand and hope that it changes, and
Was that
eventually it does, right?
was that Dylan Fratelli? I'm trying
Yeah,
to
yeah,
think. Oh my
Dylan
god,
Fratelli.
that was
Yeah,
years
that's
ago.
it.
I'm like, "What are you talking?" Yeah, that was Dylan Fratelli, I remember that.
Yeah, so lots of players don't have the ability, or they can't consciously, they can't verbalize how they make a change because they never have to do those changes. And so, but what I found from a teacher's perspective is if I take a shanker and I teach them how to hit the toe side of the club, their ability to fix their shanks improves 100-fold. So they come in and they say, you know what? I'm not shanking it as often. And when I do get the shank, I can fix it like that now. Same for slices. If you teach them how to maybe not even draw it, but hey, how do you hit more of a pull? So let's see if you can hit a pull hook even. Now, when they have the slice on the course, they're like, hey, you know what? That slice pops up occasionally, but I can quickly adjust it now because I can feel what more of a pull side feels like intentionally, and I can control it.
Said right there, I think is brilliant because that's what I would be
Thank
trying
you.
to do. And again, well, I do, but there's so many things that like when someone's describing something, I can just intuitively, as a 52-year-old that's been playing this game at a very high level for a very long time, I can feel what you're talking about. And so to me, what you just said there is brilliant because that person is probably progressively getting more and more open and progressively hitting a wipier and wipier slice. But if you said, let's stand railroad tracks left and try to hit a pull,
Yeah.
that's a totally different sensation than let's get everything aimed out to the right and try to hit a draw. That's a
Yeah,
totally
yeah.
different sensation.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
that is exploring. Like, I did a drill where I'm literally my feet were pointing at the target and swinging so far across my body, probably like 20 degrees out to in, and then go back to hitting normal shots. That's a great drill to neutralize, or the opposite if you were struggling with a slice. Like, it can't work for everyone, but it's an option that a lot of golfers would not consider because it is fairly outside of the box. Like, why would I, I'm struggling with this slice. Why would I go hit a massive hook? Makes no sense.
Yeah. I mean,
Or
you
or
wouldn't
or
want to
I'm
do
hitting it.
that before a big round though.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
dedicate a
No.
time, you say, like Scott
Yeah.
would say, that is more likely to disrupt your whole pattern. So
That's an
you'd want to do that
off-season
kind of in
project. Yeah.
winter. Yeah, exactly. But Scott, what I would say and what I do, and I've changed on this over time. You read my book, I'm more about shaping it. Still think there's a call for that, but I'm more on your page now of I like players to hit different variants of their existing shape. So, a drawer, I would want them to say, hey, can you hit a 5-yard draw, 10-yard draw, 20-yard draw? Can you hit a straight push to the right as well? So we're exploring the face around that path more. I think that has, and even then, I would then go to, hey, we got a tournament tomorrow. Let's stabilize that pattern. But it's also much easier to stabilize a pattern when you have those reference points as well. So say, for example, when I was a drawer of the ball, or if I am a drawer, if my draw becomes too big and I start hooking it, it helps to know, hey, I know how to push it 10 yards. I can then feel some of that. It doesn't require a path change then, just requires a face change.
I just know, again, anecdotal, but it's just more and more data. The amount of inbound DMs, emails, everything from my members, from Instagram, the amount of people that tell me, my God, I am playing so much better since I stopped trying to work the ball both ways. It's unbelievable. And again, I'm sure if I was a big
I
proponent
agree.
of the 9-box drill, I would get people telling me, oh my God, ever since I started doing the 9-box drill, I've gotten so much better.
It's
There's
2
a
different
survivorship
concepts, though.
bias.
It's 2 different concepts, though. So, we're saying the same thing as, like, I think Adam and I have always advocated for keep it simple, play a stock shot, but you can improve that stock shot by exploring the opposite. So, they're 2 different things. So
I just fundamentally disagree with that.
okay, that's fine.
I do. I fundamentally think that again, I don't have a problem with what you're talking about
That
because
is
you
what we're
might,
talking about.
well, I do believe that if I even had the ability to alter the face to path relationship and hit a draw, my stock shot would be worse. I do believe that. I can't prove that.
But you
But
have the
again,
ability to,
But
yeah,
let me
you have
finish
the
this real quick
ability.
go ahead.
because what you might be saying is different than that, though, John. What you might be saying is, I've got a problem,
Yeah, I
so
have
let's go explore
yes. Yeah,
something
yeah,
else.
yes,
I'm
that's what I meant. So,
fine
like,
with that.
yeah,
But
you
I would just
are
be doing it. I would just be doing it until I found a feel, and then I would stop.
no different than what you said about double crosses earlier, meaning, like, let me clarify that double crosses outside of my 65-yard cone. Same thing here is that I would never step up on a PGA Tour, not that I'm a swing instructor, but, like, I would never look at a tour player or a elite college player and say, like, "Oh, let's go hit, a ton of hooks today." I'm thinking, I'm trying to solve the problems of more common golfers and saying, like, I see them. I see what they're struggling with. They're standing on the first tee box. They have no clue where the ball's going. They have no toolbox to close the club face, to alter their swing path. And to help these type of players, like, yes, you need to explore the opposite ends of the spectrum to build club face awareness and club path control. Because when you get on the golf course, that's what you're going to be asked to do. Versus the player who wakes up in the morning and is going to go tee it up this week at the at they know where the ball's going. They know what their path's going to be. They're thinking in tenths of degrees. Like, they don't need to do this. This is a completely different golfer problem.
I
Yeah, it's
just don't
building a
know.
toolbox versus learning how to stabilize existing skills. There's different things.
And again, and maybe I'm just too bought into this quote from Claude Harmon, but it's from literally 10 years ago when they were talking about when he started working with Brooks. And he's just like, I see
Bit of
so
faith.
many players
Yeah.
out on tour trying to get good at 4 or 5 different shot types, and they aren't good at any of them. We worked on making Brooks's golf swing as repeatable and one dimensional as possible. I don't understand why that would be anything different for a beginner. If that's
But
the
then you
end
have
goal,
anecdotes of the opposite as well. I mean, Butch worked with Tiger and they did the 9-ball drill all the time
I
as
don't
well.
think so. I think that was more of a Haney thing.
Is it?
I don't think
Okay.
they did that. That the guys that I've talked to, the Hal Suttons and Ogrins and guys from back in the day, they were like, when he was really crushing it, he didn't do the 9-box drill. He basically cut the driver and basically drew his irons.
Yeah.
And
And
I
I
consider
think,
him, he crushed it in '05, obviously. I consider his best seasons of ball striking mid of 91, mid of 99 to the middle of 2001 when he won 20 out of 40 starts. That was his best ball striking.
yeah. And that's why the context is so important.
I just wish we
I,
had stroke gain for those years. My God.
oh my, yeah, it would
Just
have
for
been
all
off
the
the charts.
listeners, we are actually on the same page. All three of us agree that when you are on the golf course,
Yeah. I
play
don't
a
want
stock
someone playing
shot.
5
Don't go
shots.
shaping into right
Yeah.
pins, drawing into left pins. We're not really. There may be 0.001% of people who can actually benefit from that.
I
Scott
mean,
would even
that would
argue
be
that,
great.
right?
But the thing is like circling back to Luke, he's like, Justin Thomas or Scotty or Rory or all this stuff. And I'm like, I'll grant you with the iron, still not with the driver. Maybe to get to number one in the world, you do have to be able to do that. Is that really what
Yeah.
99?
No,
I
that
just,
to me, that's irrelevant to the problems, we're trying to solve on this golf show. We're not trying to solve the problems of the 0.0001% of golfers. Like that is a separate toolbox.
My joke pushback to that always is yes, and Steph Curry can shoot logo threes. Does that mean I can? No, I can't. Nor will I ever be able to. I don't even need to practice them. I suck at them.
No, I think we'll move on to tournament prep, but to tidy it up in my head, it's just like I love simplicity. I love doing the same thing over and over again. But sometimes, Scott, I don't have nearly the same physical talent as you. Like, to get to where I did as a golfer, I used to hit it everywhere. I was not a good junior player like you. And to get to more of a consistent ball flight, yeah, I had to explore the opposite end of the spectrum. And I wouldn't say everyone needs to do that. I just think it's an option while practicing for players who are really struggling. But at no point would I ever tell someone go out there and hit a low hook or a high fade on the course. It's more to build club face awareness. I think that's what golf really is it's club face awareness in the end.
And my main quote that I always say for people that are thinking about working at the opposite direction on the course is there needs to be a really good reason why, and a better look at birdie is not a good enough reason why. There needs to be a tree. There needs to be, I've done it before. If the wind is off the right and the pin's in the back, and I've got I'm between 6 and 7 iron, and I'm worried about hitting a soft six because it might come out low and with no spin and just get too long. In that scenario, I have tried to draw a 7 iron. Not, I mean, there's one shot in particular on this one par three that I can remember doing this, and has to have been at least
It's
5 or 6 years ago.
situational,
I was
right?
trying to draw this 7 iron because the green was huge. The double cross wasn't going to kill me, and I was more worried about what hitting one club more was going to do to this back hole location. I mean, but that wasn't to get a better look at birdie. That was just to not have a chip shot coming back from hitting the wrong club off the tee.
Um, let's move on to I know the reason Scott actually came on the show. I knew this
You
was
may
going to
need to put
happen.
in the you may need to put in the introduction and skip ahead to 58 minutes if
Well,
you start getting
listen,
bored.
I don't know if the listeners have enjoyed it, but I've enjoyed this thoroughly. I think we kind of provided a lot of nuance and context to statements that get taken out of context at times online. And I don't expect to see eye to eye with everyone, but there is a ton of common ground there, I believe.
I think
I
we do,
agree.
yeah.
So
We
let's
see.
talk about you texted me a few weeks ago saying your game is in the dumps, but you're trying to prepare for tournaments. You're not sharp or where you want it to be. So what are you doing right now? What can you share in terms of your tournament preparation?
Yeah, I mean, that's just where I thought it'd be a good primer for people coming out of the winter. Obviously, this is a little bit later than we were
And
planning
I'm in
on
the same boat too. I played for the first time 2 days ago. This is April 16th. I played for the first time in 4 months. So I'm rusty
Wow.
as well.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously I've had a bunch of surgeries over the last 4 years, but last year specifically, I had knee surgery, and so I missed 4 months, and then about a month later, I hurt my back and missed 3 months. So this is last year was the first year that I basically stood at +4 for 10 years without really trying, and last year was the first year after missing basically 9 months that I really felt like I kind of sucked. And again, it's
What
all
did you fall
relative.
to a +1? My God,
1.8 was my low water mark or high
the
water mark, whatever you want to
Yeah,
travesty.
call it.
same as me.
But again, it's all relative. It is definitely all relative. And so I was just thinking to myself as I come out of the winter, my U.S. Senior Open qualifier is a week from Monday. What am I going to be focusing on? And it really is that speed control from 20 to 40 feet, that mastering the basic chip shot. For me to get back to +6, yeah, I need to learn how to hit a flop shot better. I need to learn how to do a number of things better. But I do feel like I can tread back towards +4 just by getting more reps in from 20 to 40 feet. And the reason 20 to 40 feet specifically is so important, you just don't hit it inside of 20 feet very often. And you just also don't three putt it that much. This is again relative to ability. Three putt it that often from inside 20 feet. And you just don't have that many putts per round from outside 40 feet unless you've got a home course with just massive greens. Because usually you've missed the green once you start getting outside of that. So owning that 20 to 40 foot range. And what you really want to do with that is just practice lagging into zones that are basically 10% of the length of the putt. So you want to be lagging into from 20 to 30 feet into a 2 or 3 foot window, and then from 30 to 40 feet into a 3 or 4 foot window. And you just do that by setting up ball marks. You find as straight and long of a putt as you can, and you set a few ball marks up that are 2 and 3 feet apart. And then you just go to 20 feet and you start lagging into that 2 foot window of ball marks. When you're successful, you move yourself backwards 6 inches. Hopefully this is coming out well verbally for people to understand. But if you're just in a straight line You put a ball mark, and then 2 feet later, a ball mark, and then another foot of ball mark. You've now created a 2 foot and a 3 foot zone. And then when you start, put a tee in at 20 feet, 30 feet, and 40 feet. And honestly, the worse you are, you could even start at 10 feet, just trying to lag it into the 2 foot window. Once you're successful, you move yourself backwards 6 inches. And then once you get to that middle tee, whether that's 20 or 30 feet, you start trying to lag it into the bigger zone. And if you've got a start line problem, that's just going to take a long time to fix your putting stroke to where you've got a better start line. But most people, in my experience, once you're doing just a dedicated speed drill, it's really incredible how quickly you can improve your speed. And the most important thing after you've done that is realizing that our goal from outside 20 feet is just two putting. And so if you've gotten good at rolling it into a 2 or a 3 foot window, and now all of a sudden, when you're out on the course and your goal is just a two putt, that 2 or 3 foot window becomes 2 or 3 feet short to 2 or 3 feet long. Now you've got like a 6 foot window you're trying to roll it into. But again, as always, you have to understand that leaving putts short not only optimizes your two putt rate, but I do believe it optimizes your make rate also. If you're not leaving putts short, you're centering your shot pattern too far past the hole. You're making the hole too small. You're having too many lip outs.
Yeah,
But by
capture
leaving
speed
25,
issue.
what's that?
Capture speed issue, right?
Yeah, 100%. And so if you're leaving 25-ish% of your putts short from 20 to 30 feet, and really honestly, it should start getting out to 50%. But I'm just saying, even from 15 to 20 feet, if you're leaving 25% of your putts short, if you think of a normal distribution curve, if we're leaving 25% short, you've now centered the majority of your putts, that inner 50%, as close to the hole as possible. I do think Pels, rest in peace, I do think he got it completely wrong with his 17 inches thing, because he was optimizing for make rates. And in golf, we don't optimize for make rates. We optimize for strokes to hole out rates. I mean, again, he did the best he could as the pioneer of all analytics in golf, in my opinion. But the one thing I think he did do wrong was that, because technically the optimal make rate would be 1 inch past the hole. I
Hmm.
mean, just getting every putt 1 inch
Yeah.
past the hole, making the hole as big as possible. 17 inches past the hole makes his hole nearly 50% smaller.
I think
There's
he
no
was
chance.
optimizing there for getting through the lumpy donut. Do you know what the lumpy
But that's
donut
not
is?
Yeah, but that's not as much of a deal anymore with modern grasses and technology and soft spikes, and it's just a different game than when he did all that experimenting.
Well, I think what you're discussing, the important takeaway for all golfers is you're talking about situational practice that has a big separating factor on the course because it's a scenario you'll be faced with a lot. I can't remember the stat exactly, but I'm pretty sure for everyone else, the average starting putt on most holes is outside of 15 or 20 feet as well, whether that's because you hit a green in regulation or you just don't wedge it close enough. Most golfers are faced with this scenario, and this is a high separation area where you can influence your scores quite a bit versus practicing something that won't have a huge effect on your scores.
Well, that's again circling back to my bunker game's not very good. Actually, hat tip Joe Mayo, understanding that I want to be hitting a bunker shot with shaft lean has really, like, again, it's like Bonner ball flight laws, telling the human body the right thing to do. It's really good at doing it. I've always been thinking the shaft should be basically vertical at impact. And I've always hit this, like, not thin, but just like skippy into the ball, just kind of gross bunker shot. But now that I'm setting up with shaft lane, that face wide open, and I'm basically hitting it that way, dude, the ball's just popping straight
Well,
up.
we'll have to get Mayo on to discuss that, the new
We we
bunker
need
stuff.
we
I don't know.
definitely
Have
need to
you?
get Joe back on. He came on a couple
Yeah,
of years ago as well.
yeah.
I'm sure he would. He loves talking.
It was a blockbuster. I loved it.
Scott, that is something I would agree with you on, and I've changed as well over the last 15 years or so. Uh, when I wrote my book, I talked about kind of the Peltz method. You'd set up the drill that you talked about, and I would have it up to 3 foot past. You wouldn't get a point for finishing short, but now I've changed. I've definitely changed my opinion on that one. So
Yeah. I
I
mean,
agree with
again,
you. It's just
it's
maths
just
at the end of the day.
It's just, I mean, it is just straightforward math. And that's what's really funny is whenever people are, you know, when I'm playing in my Wolf game on Friday and I hear the guy, he's got 12 feet left and his partner's like, next one's good. I'm in with four. I'm like, awesome. This is sailing 5 feet by. And it does every
Never
single
had a
time.
chance. Yeah, never
I'm
had a
not
chance
sure
to
I've
go in.
ever seen someone make a putt after his partner said the next one's good.
Nope. Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever seen it.
Unless it hit the back of the cup, goes straight in the air 6 inches, and then plops right back down.
And they pat themselves on the back every single time. Like, well, at least I got it there. Like, yeah, no. I mean,
Never
again,
up,
circling
never
back,
in.
Faxon's the main guy that I've obviously argued about this point with. And Brad Faxon, arguably the greatest putter that's ever walked the planet, left 16% of his putts short from 16 to 20 feet. That is 1 out of 6 putts short.
What about from 30 feet? You got that?
43%. From outside 32
Right.
feet, it was 43%,
Okay.
which even that's not optimal. It would be optimal to be 50%.
Yeah.
From outside 32 feet. I mean, again, it is crazy.
What is it? About 10% error on putting, Scott? So 30 feet, getting it within 3 feet.
The best putters on the PGA Tour, the best putters, the top 20, top 25, I can't remember which number we ran it on exactly. The top 20 or 25 putters get 75% of their first putts from outside 25 feet within 10% of the length of the putt. So even the best putters on tour, 25% of the time aren't doing that. I mean, and again, once you understand that leaving a putt short's okay, you get a huge margin for it. And I do believe you see it. The guys on tour, especially the David Orrs and the really good putting coaches out there, they understand exactly what I'm talking about and they fully subscribe. And you
Yeah.
do see guys on tour now, the ball is much creepier around the hole from 16, 20 feet. The ball is just dying right around it. Because again, I do believe guys work on their speed control much more than they used to. And so these guys are able to diet right around the hole, but within a foot or so of going long. And yeah, sure, we're talking tour courses where there definitely is no lumpy donut and whatever, but I do believe that the lumpy donut and a lot of that stuff has been, it just doesn't exist anymore compared to when Pels was doing his research.
Even if it does, it doesn't mean that hitting it that far past is optimal.
It's not like it's a
Because again,
volcano
that's
at the end of the day. I mean, it's not
yeah.
that big of a deal.
Again, at 30 feet, you're trying to optimize getting as many close as possible, not holding as many as possible. Because I mean, what's the world's best from 30 feet versus the average tour player? Was like 1% difference in make rate from that range?
Yeah. And there's so many survivorship biases when you start looking at these tour players' data where like, you know, okay, you've got the worst 25% of putters. They're just having a terrible year. I get it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
then, you know, they're like, well, even the, you know, the average tour player, 3 putts, you know, 2.5% of the time, once every other day. And it's like, well, you don't get on tour if you're 3 putting once a day. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
obviously you don't. I mean, it's just, that doesn't mean that some really good players and putters don't. That's, anytime you've got a guy at your home course like, I'm one of the best putters, you know, I could putt with a tour player. No, you couldn't.
No. No.
You have no idea if you're really measuring strokes gained and you're -1 on the PGA Tour with their greens and pins. You have no idea how good of putting that is. I mean, the worst putter on the PGA Tour is so good. Throughout the bottom 10 that have the yips, the guy, the lowest ranked guy that doesn't have the yips is such a good putter. It would blow most people's mind.
It would be no
Um,
different than the worst player on an NBA roster playing a pickup game in your local gym. There's some, I think Brian Scalabrine, remember he played for the Celtics for a long time, you know, kind of like a bench guy. He had a series, I think it was on like Instagram, where he would just like and he would be using moves you've never seen him use in an NBA game. Like they're just,
Even if you controlled for height, like, so, okay, we've got a local gym full of 6'7" guys.
yeah, yeah, the athletic
They still
freakiness
would blow
would
them
blow him out
away.
of the water. Yeah, it's the same thing. Like I haven't spent too much time on PJ Tour putting greens, but the time I have, I've just been like, oh my, like they're just not missing. Like they're just draining
Just don't miss.
everything. It's
It's
unbelievable.
incredible. It's
So
incredible.
getting back to like short-term prep. So I think, you know, one thing we've talked about on the show before, like coming off, you know, the winter off season, you know, your feel, your depth perception, like the short game shots tend to be the ones that have more bang for your buck in terms of short-term preparation for tournaments versus like long game. It's kind of like it is what it is in the short term.
I kind of circle back to, and I talk so much about the Tiger 5 mistakes: bogeys on par fives, doubles, 3 putts, bogey inside 150. Tiger technically track bogey with 9 iron or less, and then blown easy save, which for my amateurs, I just say track 2 chips. Really, what we want to be focusing on in that early season practice, knock the rust off, is how to eliminate those 5 things as much as possible. So the 20 to 40 foot speed control practice works on the 3 putts, the no blown easy save and the no 2 chips. That gets by just focusing on those easy chip shots. So when I practice, I've said this a million times, but I just have a stack of balls right here. I just literally do this up the side of the chipping green. Stack of balls. I put tees at 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, and then 20 yards. And all I'm doing is working on my carrying it to those numbers. I haven't chipped a ball to an actual golf hole in 3 years now, and I've never chipped the ball better than I do, including whenever I was playing professionally.
It's kind of
All
like
I'm doing
that ladder drill, right?
just that I'm just trying to own those carry numbers. And then I will say that as again, a 52-year-old with lots of experience, I can pretty much see where I need to land a basic chip shot in order for it to go close. I mean, I'm pretty good at that just from experience. And now once I've mastered carrying it within a foot, and that's, I did it for about 45 minutes yesterday. I've got 7 herniated discs in my back right now, so I'm not going to hit very many golf balls. So I'm going to try to work on my short game and putting.
What? 7 hernia? How is that even is that all your discs? I don't know how many discs we have.
The I did an MRI 2 days ago, and it's not good. But they're all small. They're all 2 millimeter-ish discs, herniation, so or whatever you call it. But so I am gonna just basically focus on my chipping and putting for a week, but I'm just doing that ladder drill, and I do laugh because I don't do it very much, but because I've kinda got these it is a Pell's type clock system where, like, the 5-yarder is kinda like as soft as I can hit a chip shot and it still feel like a chipping motion. 7 and 9, I feel like I'm just letting my hands travel a little bit further. 11 is the inflection point where it starts to feel like a pitch to me. And then 15 is like club parallel to the ground, hands, and then I'm just kind of dropping it on it. That's 15. And obviously, then 13 is just between the two. And I can hit those numbers within a foot pretty much every single time. And then 20 yards for me is getting just a little bit past that club parallel, but then actually trying to hit it. And so my whole thought process is again, I'm going to come out here and I'm going to try to own the no blown easy saves. If I have 3 flop shots in a round, I either had poor strategy or bad ball striking. I shouldn't have that many flop shots. And so now if you're a 12 handicap and you do have a bunch, well, you're going to be best served by just hitting the green and 2 putting for bogey than trying some flop shot. Again, that's something you can age into as you get better. But I can tell you, I've played to a plus 3 or 4 for a number of years, and I don't have a flop shot in my game at all. If I'm hitting 13 greens around, maybe one of them should be flop-ish. The rest should be pretty basic shots. You know, the guys on tour have to hit a lot of flop shots because the pins are tucked so close to the side, but that's just not the way it works in normal everyday golf.
Well, yeah, the separation between elite tour players is, how many pars and birdies can you make, and then as many good bogeys as possible. Forget about doubles. But for everyone else, the separating factor is like double or triple bogeys, and a lot of that we talk about on the show, like short sided, try a shot they shouldn't be trying, blade it over the green, chunk it. You get to 6 or 7 pretty quickly versus if you just tried to hit it to like 15 feet past the hole and 2 putt. Like the different intention kind of solves the issue most of the time.
But that's the patience and discipline that I talk about so much. It's
It's
being
hard.
able to recognize I'm in
It's
a
so
bad spot
hard.
here.
Yeah, your brain doesn't want to we did an episode on the system 1, system 2 parts of the brain, like the fast part and the slow part. Like your brain wants to do something stupid in that situation. It wants to like what it sees is like, I want to get this near the pin. And you're like, and you got to stop that and like be like, nope, we're not going to do that right now. And that is really hard to
And
do.
but it also, we're being super nitty. We want to shoot our lowest score possible in all scenarios. I mean, that's also not the case. If you're playing Wolf and
Yeah, some
do
people
the
want to
flop
have
shot, knock
fun. Go
yourself out.
for it.
But
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
talking about like if you're actually trying in a tournament round or whatever, if we're really trying to shoot our best score, then these are the things that you have to do. I mean, it just is what it is. It's what's kind of hard sometimes if you do have a personal best going to still like, am I here to play Wolf or am I here to play low score? I shot 64 a couple weeks ago, and on the 16th hole, we're playing 150 hammer hyper wolf, and I've got a 3 iron from 200 into a 20-mile-an-hour wind that in a tournament I would have laid this thing up. But I'm also looking at like, well, if I don't go for it, I'm going to be facing a hammer and a birdie. This is going to get really expensive really quick because everyone's catching a shot on this hole. So I hit a shot that I would not have tried otherwise. So yeah, what are we really optimizing for here? Score, fun, hero shots, wolf.
Yeah, well, that's an important distinction for golfers to kind of sit back and think about. Like, if you're playing your Saturday morning game with your friends and you want to break the rules and do like fun stuff, like I'm all for it. Go for it. And that's if that is satisfying and fun in the moment, great. But don't get it confused with where a lot of golfers get stuck. They get stuck in the middle where they want to shoot their lowest scores, but they're not prepared to do the things to do it. And I know you're obviously excellent at teaching those rules, but you kind of have to learn the rules and decide, do I want to use them all the time? Or, are there situations where I'm gambling? I want to have fun where I just let loose and see what
And the
happens.
the real challenge is you pull them off a lot. It only takes messing it up a time or 2 out of 10 to destroy the math of your scoring average. So, if I wasn't aware of what I was doing when I hit that 3 iron into that wind, onto the green, and 2 putted for birdie, I would have gotten confirmation like, "Dude, you just did the right thing.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
totally did the right thing." So now in a tournament, I'm gonna try that, and I hit a little flare up into the wind and into the water and wind up walking off 70, like, "But it was the right play. I've done it before." Like, you don't need to make many 7s to offset those 4s.
And that's the hard thing, I think, that our brains have a hard time understanding in the moment. Like that, I think that's one of the great like challenges of golf. What makes it such an interesting like decision making game is that you're at odds with that all the time with like your instincts.
Well, a stupid analogy that I give for this all the time is like you can hit on 18 blackjack and there's a 23% chance you won't bust and the table's going to go crazy. And there's still a 30% chance you won't win the hand.
That is
So
pretty
just because
interesting
you hit on
stat.
18 and didn't bust does not mean you won. Like
Yeah, yeah.
step one's done, but we still got a bullet to dodge here. I mean, there's a reason you hit on it, probably because the guy's showing a paint. You're not done here.
The analogy I was thinking of was stock market, either index investing versus, going for the home runs. It doesn't take, I've had guys who tell me, oh, well, I gained 50% on this investment and 20% on this one, and I'm beating the market. And then they have that one that goes to zero and it wipes out all of those gains that they had.
Yep. It's easy to blow up an E-Trade account. I can assure you of that.
Are you still playing a lot of poker?
No, not really. I mean, I've actually went down a couple times. We have card rooms here in Dallas now, and I went down 5 or 6 times last year and played, and I had fun, but it's like I've just got other stuff I can do with my time than I like tournament poker more than anything because there's a point and there's an end. If you're going to play in a cash game, the point is to win money, and I'm not going to play in high enough stakes because I'm not good enough to actually move the needle for me either direction. So just trying to go down there and grind out a couple $100 in a few hours. If I'm just looking to have some fun, sure, but most of the people that are playing in those card rooms aren't necessarily the funnest to sit around and BS with. So not really. I've played a poker game a couple times recently with Parker and Pearson Cootie and Mitchell and Mac Meisner and one of our buddies, Bryce. I've played in it a few times, but I tried to run a bluff into Pearson Cootie that would have worked on most 24-year-olds, but I forgot that he's a millionaire.
Yeah,
You
so he
just look
doesn't
at a kid,
care.
you're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I can definitely bet 500 in him," and he's folding. He just insta called with not much, and I was like, "Oh yeah, you're rich.
It's
That's not
like,
going to
"That's
work
like
on you."
5 minutes of work for me, buddy. No big deal."
Yeah, it was pretty funny. But so then circling back to the Tiger Five and how we're going to get ready for the year, where do most of our bogeys on par fives come from? They come from either poor tee shots or lack of situational awareness. So I do tell people, like, I know what 60 yards is on my driving range. I know these two, like my driving range has kind of a field goal of in the trees that is perfectly 60 yards apart. And there's even better, there's like an old light pole or something right in the left side of it. And so I'm just trying to have my body lines and everything. Like it's literally like I designed it down there. So really finding a 60-yard grid on your driving range and then just really block practicing to death with the driver specifically, keeping it in that zone. I do believe that mastering via block practice is the way to do it with driver, just because setup, ball position, where's the ball at, how far is it from you? Where's it at in your stance? Am I lined up correctly? I mean, the amount of 10 handicaps I play with that take like a practice swing next to it and then just step into it and never even look down the fairway. It's pretty mind boggling. So really owning that pre-shot routine. I tried to tell people with your irons, it's really exhausting to get behind every single one of them in practice. But I do believe when you're practicing your driver, just because it's such an important club, getting behind every single one of them. So you're mastering that. It's kind of the art of golf. The dance of golf to me is coming in from behind, getting situated to the ball position, getting oriented to the target, and practicing that trigger. When people say like I can't get my range game to the course, it's because you haven't practiced that part of the dance, and that part of the
We
dance is
agree.
really important. Like we all have this trigger where you kind of push off your trail leg into the lead leg to then push back to start your swing. Like that's kind of how everyone triggers their swing in some way. I put an Instagram post up recently with me hitting 3 different drivers, and it's just identical. And then I even took the one driver that Cordy had. So now it's just a completely different day. And I just set it next to those three, and they're just all perfectly in sync. And I do believe that's one of the reasons that I drive it so well, is that part of it I just have absolutely mastered. And I don't think that people practice that.
We agree. Practicing the whole
I, I'm
routine itself. The only thing I'll ask
I'm all for that with driver. Totally agree.
the only thing I'll ask you, Scott, is why not just add changing the target location? Even if you're going to block practice driver, why not have a target on the right and a target on the left and just alternate between them? Why not
Personally
just
with
add that element?
Personally with driver, like I say, having multiple 60-yard wide things is probably difficult to do. But what I tell people is, I want you to be so good at this that when you get out on a hole that's uncomfortable, whether you're aiming at the edge of your teaching center or whatever, we get out on the course and something doesn't feel comfortable. I just want you to picture your driving range out there. So I literally, if I've got a shot that doesn't feel good, I will picture that telephone pole and I'm lining up at it, and I'm just tricking myself into, it's like that from Risky Business when Tom Cruise says, sometimes you just got to say, what the, like, that's to me how you have to dig in with driver. And if I'm uncomfortable, like, either don't hit it or dig deep and say, there's 65 yards out there. This is why I'm hitting driver. I keep it within that 80% of the time, 90% of the time, whatever that number is. I keep it inside of that the vast majority of the time. This is the club. Let's just send it and stop thinking, don't go left or don't go right. That's really what we're training. And I do believe, because again, I know you're more, I believe that we're closer than we think, as we've always talked about with block versus random.
Yeah.
But I do believe the driver specifically, you just have to own so much. And this does become a cost benefit analysis of time. Most people don't have a whole lot of time. So just setting up, because I do think alignment rod down, I found a video recently that I did a couple years ago where I have an alignment rod down and then actually also one in front of the ball that I'm kind of hitting, like seeing that target line start. And I've added that back into my practice also. So changing those things around, because I do think that you should hit basically every single ball with an alignment rod down. And I do believe that with random, that becomes a little bit more far fetched. I just think that most people conflate block practice with brain dead practice, and that does not have to be the case. It just doesn't
Totally
have.
agree. We totally agree
Yeah.
with that too. There's a way to do it properly. And I think the counter argument for randomizing stuff is it gets you to do that for some players who just aren't as disciplined. But as
I
you
don't
said,
disagree with
like you
that.
go to PGA Tour setups, they are so disciplined. If they are hitting the same shots at the same target over and over again, what are they doing? They're going through their routine. They're hitting the shot. They're going back. They're looking at their track man. They're absorbing all of the right feedback. They're disciplined. They know how to do it properly, and they
I don't
enjoy the
disagree.
benefits
I
of
mean,
that.
I don't disagree with any of that. When I get mad is when people hold up some study that in baseball, the people that take live pitch batting practice go on and do better in the majors than those that take either a pitching machine. And I'm like, well, how did you control out the fact that if a person's throwing a baseball at me at 90, I'm paying more attention than if a pitching machine is? And if I'm actually catching live pitch batting practice in college, I'm probably at a better institution and I'm probably better at baseball than you in the first place. They just don't control that out. I mean, you can't control out the fact you're paying more attention when a human is humming a baseball at you than when a pitching machine is. So I just think that entire study is totally irrelevant to bring into golf. And
My main
obviously,
thing
Adam and I talk about the memorizing multiplication tables and all that stuff.
Yeah, but that's an analogy. That's not to say that that translates over. It's just an analogy to explain the difference between learning by rote and, switching between tasks or actually understanding a task or accessing a movement. And this is kind of one of the things I was thinking about earlier is like if you go on a tour range and watch them practicing and they're all warming up, hitting block practice. They're all hitting it great. They're all hitting it amazingly. They're all just hitting on a rope. Yet when they get out in the course, that's not the case. And so it's like, well, what are the elements there that are determining that? And it's the ability to access a motor program. There's all the psychological components as well that go into it. And I just feel like mixing it up, random practice is a better way of getting to that point. I'm speaking anecdotally there, but also on the studies thing, even if we're to say, well, there's a problem with this study, there's a problem with that study, there's a problem with this study, it doesn't apply here. They all point towards the same thing, that random practice is better. So even if there are problems with the studies, there's nothing. Like I asked ChatGPT, I said, hey, give me the studies where blocked wins. And it's just like, well, there are problems with the random practice, but there's none where blocked wins, really. And
But
so it's like,
once a study has a gaping hole in it, I find it irrelevant. I find it totally useless. If it were just once
yeah,
I
but if
see a gaping
1,000
hole,
studies all point towards the same conclusion,
not in golf.
no one study has no hole in it, right? No one study is definitive. But if 1,000 studies all say the same thing,
Isn't
it's
it
hard.
possible there's confounding variables in there of just slowing
Yeah,
down
of
and
each
paying more
one study.
attention?
Yeah. Yeah, of each one
That's
study.
to me, that's the difference. But again, in golf, the guy from Arizona State that did the main one that everyone refers to in the batting practice, that Lou
Howie. Oh,
trotted
yeah.
him out on the Hack It Out the week after I quit the Hack It Out, just trying to whatever. And there's just so many stupid things that the guy said. No offense if you're listening, but he's like, I mean, you just stand there and you look at every golf swing. Every golf swing looks the same. I'm like, to the naked, untrained eye, the brain is already having to reorganize that map and that plan. The brain's already doing that because every golf swing is not the same already.
Hmm.
No two swings are identical. So the brain is already doing the main thing that you, Luke, whoever claim the brain has to do. It's already doing that because no two swings are the same.
Yeah, but there's a difference. We're talking different things here. You're talking differential practice versus block practice. Like differential is actively trying to put variables in, whereas block practice is trying to stabilize it. That's different to random practice where you're just changing targets or changing clubs. I agree that the swing is different each time. The closer we look at it, the more we see it's different each time. But there's a very big difference between accidental changes from swing to swing and consciously inputting changes. So here's an example. When I teach players to hit more toe and more heel, so they are consciously inputting variables. They are trying to hit some more on the toe, trying to hit some more on the heel. They are then better at hitting the center than someone who only practiced hitting center. I've done this study so many times.
Again, I can appreciate you saying that. I can't imagine you having enough data to actually make that a definitive statement.
Well, there's so much anecdotal because I've got like 20,000 hours of lessons under me. But there's also the part that, even if the data showed one thing,
I want to make one thing really clear right
there's a
here, real quick. I'm
huge
not even saying you.
advantage.
I want to make one thing clear. I'm not even saying you're wrong with that. I'm just saying I wouldn't buy into it as gospel. But carry on.
No, I just say that I teach that to players because there's always an advantage to it. And it's almost like arguing block practice versus differential practice is like arguing, should I do strategy or fitness? It's like, well, yeah, if you did a study, one of them might produce better results, but do both of them. Like they both work on completely different aspects. And I would say that blocked does work on a different aspect compared to random. Like blocked for me, I do blocked when I'm looking for a confidence boost. I do block practice when I'm looking for physical conditioning. Like after a layoff, my body's not in shape. I'm not flexible. I want to hit as many balls as I can to start to get some flexibility in there. But if I'm looking for my ability to transfer my skills to the course, I need to do more random. Personally, I need to do more random. I know a lot of players who do that because I can block all day and hit this 6-yard standard deviation. And then I go out on the course and it's just like I'm not practicing much. Whereas when I start doing more random practice by playing GS Pro, all of a sudden my course game gets a lot better. And I can explain why as well. I can feel the differences more in my grip and my setup when I'm actually setting out of walking back in with different clubs. I can sense the changes that are occurring much better. Or even
What I'm
on
saying is you don't
different
have to change
skills.
targets to do that. I don't think you have to change targets to do that.
No, I know, but if you want to improve alignment, here's the difference in us. I've actually did this when I was very early on in coaching. I wanted to see if placing an alignment stick down on the ground improved alignment better than changing targets each time. So I set a task of one group practice with their alignment stick down on the ground all the time. And the other group has to walk out of the bay, line up to a target on the right side of the range, walk in, line up to it, then place an alignment stick down on the ground on their feet, step back and check their alignment. And then they had to keep going through that process. And then we went on the course and we tested who was better at lining up at the targets. And the one who had done the random practice were better at lining up. Now, the reason why I didn't do anything with that data was because I found that lining up perfectly doesn't really necessarily make you a better golfer. But if you wanted to improve in alignment, you actually have to go through the process of lining yourself up each time to different targets. There's a perceptual component to it as well. Like we all know people who they can line up at a target on a range, and then you ask them to line up to one on the right side of the range, and they start doing it, and they're like, "Oh, this feels really weird. The mat is not lined up." And then they get on the course, and those things are there as well because tee boxes don't line you up straight all the time. Going through that and practicing that
I
is
can
an
appreciate that
important
for sure.
component to it.
Yeah,
Me
I
lining up
think
down the right side of the range feels awful. I can appreciate that.
Yeah,
yeah,
or
I
the
think
left for some people.
I think the point is like it's an option for if you go to most driving ranges and observe, common golfers, what they're doing, like they're just raking and hitting. So you
Yeah,
could stop
raking
them
it
and
in.
say, okay, if you're going to hit 27 irons to this target, let's slow you down a bit and create more intention and engagement with each shot. Upgrade, no problem. Or you could have the option of with the alignment stuff for saying like hit the 7 iron, then the pitching wedge. That might get it for them as well and break up the monotony. Or let's throw in a performance game, or let's work on impact location. I think these are options that players should be open to and try out and see which works the best for you. I would confess to you, Scott, that I still do a ton of blocked practice. I think I've gotten way better at blocked format. And
I
it, and
think
it
the
helps
random
me
comes in important when we're doing chip shots and lag
Yeah.
putting. I mean, and
Putting
for
that's what I
sure.
say.
breaking
For
Like,
sure.
putting too.
yeah, I mean
Breaking
that's
putting is important too because there's a predictive element, right? The first time you look at a putt, you're like, okay, I think this breaks a foot. Then you do your shot and you get your answer. The next time you do that shot, there's no prediction of the break. You already know how much it's going to break. So for me, in my case, where my start line is great, my speed control is good, but my reading sucks. Doing a bunch of block practice on the same putt over and over is not going to help me there. I need to mix it up a little bit.
but to me that's just a totally different skill. And what's interesting is actually I've never been a good green reader, but whenever I'm just putting around my putting green, I'm always, no matter how much break it is, I'm always pretty good. And I've always just thought, it's because it's my putting green. I know it. But about 2 weeks ago, literally the round before I shot 64, asked my buddy who caddied for me 2 years ago when I did qualify for the U.S. Senior Open. Anytime I've had someone caddy for me, Frederick Lindblom, a couple of guys back in the day that are good green readers, I've always putted great. So I've always just been like, God, I wish I could read greens better. But I've always just read them from down and behind, or even doing an aim point or a tour read or whatever. But I've never started by just getting over the putt and what do I think this is going to do? I asked my buddy, I was like, on the very first one, I was like, how much do you read the putt just from being over it? And he's like, at least half of it. He's like, I always start right there, get a pretty good idea of what I think it's going to do. And then I kind of confirm it from behind. And I've done that for my last 5 or 6 rounds now. And I'm putting phenomenal. I mean, my reads have been great. Like it's been really, really eye opening for me to just start from that point.
So you're starting with a more conscious process. You're asking yourself the question, how much this
No,
breaks
I'm just
first, or
if
you're
I've got
not.
a 15-footer, a 5 footer, whatever, the first thing I'm doing is just getting over it and just like, what am I seeing and feeling? And then reading it. And if it just confirms, I just stop.
Right.
But if
Okay.
it
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
confirm it, I'll get back over it again one more time and see if I can kind of meet in the middle somewhere. And it's just been unbelievable the difference in my green reading. Again, the first round, I was just like, wow, I really did something great there. That the 64, I literally started with 7 straight threes. I made, and again, this is super anecdotal. It's 9 holes, but like I made 3 putts over 20 feet that the ball just rolled exactly down the stripe that I was envisioning it on. Now, the fact that it actually went in is the anecdotal part. The fact that that the read was actually this spot on really has shifted for me how I'm going to read greens moving forward for sure.
Yeah. And that's what I teach.
Yeah, we had Ralph Bauer who does Tor Reed and his kind of working with ophthalmologists. He likes low side off you're off to the side of the putt below the hole, that's the best place to actually see the break and which way it's going versus if you're reading a putt and you're looking downhill, your brain plays tricks on you. I actually had a pilot I was playing with who listened to that episode and told me like that's the same thing they teach us as pilots. Like there's like an optical illusion that occurs if you're looking down. You can't get the same depth perception. There's a few different ways to skin that cat, though. I think.
One of the things I've always been pretty good at in practice is setting up a chalk line or strings over the straight putt. Like I've always been pretty good at finding a 5 or 6 foot straight putt into a practice hole fairly quickly. I mean, I'm like within 6 inches either way, pretty much first try. And that's one thing I've also tried to bring into on putts inside of 8 feet is starting by trying to figure out where do I think the straight putt is, and then moving off from that, obviously either direction, and knowing if it's left of the straight putt, uphill, it's going to be moving right, and vice versa. That's really helped me a ton also.
Yeah, I
It's so
think
funny because when I'm looking at you and I catch Adam over here, it looks like he's got on like a veil, the way his chair comes in.
another optical illusion. He's yeah. I mean, in general, like I think you're obviously a very disciplined practicer. Like, I think that's part of the reason you've gotten so good at golf and you played professionally. Like, you show up, you've got a plan, you're engaged, you're doing all the right things, and that's why you see benefits. And I think no matter what you're doing, like that, you have to have a little bit of that. Not everyone needs to make it like I want people to have fun too, obviously, depending on what level they're looking to get at. But I think that's like ultimately what it boils down to is like intention, engagement, absorbing feedback. These are kind of the cornerstones. And then you could sprinkle in, what we would say on the show is sprinkle in some different methods to hopefully find one that works better for you and solves the problem effectively.
Well, and that's one thing that Como told me about Tiger, and Haney even had it in his book, just how slow he practices.
Hmm.
And this was, I was having a conversation with a guy that's in the top 5 on the Corn Ferry points list right now last week. Cause he's like, man, I just don't feel like I'm as quite as into it those first couple rounds as I am as the tournament moves on. And I'm like, I'm going to say that this is going to have to come back to your practice habits then. You've made a lot of money this year. I assume you're not waiting tables at Chili's at night. Your job is to practice and play golf. You need to slow down and make practice exactly what Adam wanted to hear, way more like the tournament round. Like you need to be slowing down, hitting 5 or 6 balls and then sitting down and having a drink of water, taking 2 minutes between 5 or 6 balls, take a minute or two and chill out. That is, I do believe that was Tiger's superpower, was hitting every single shot on the golf course with intention. So this will be a little diatribe here, so hold on. In the Decade app, we track the mental scorecard, which is basically, did you know exactly what you're trying to do with the shot, trajectory, shape, distance, and target? And then when you hit the shot, were you 100% present and committed? It's pass or fail. Most guys that I work with that are professionals start off in that. Adam, you got a bunch of typing going on there.
Sorry.
You're good. Most guys start off in that 90% range. We're trying to get to 95%. So let's just pretend your scoring average is 70 and we're at 90%. That means 7 shots around, you are self-diagnosing. I wasn't completely sure what I was trying to do with the shot. When I track this stat, when Zalatoris does, when Maverick does, when, I've got some guys that I really trust are being very objective with how they track the stat. So I take every hole that has a perfect mental scorecard and I compare it relative to par to every hole that does not have a perfect mental scorecard. And it's about a quarter to a third of a shot. Okay. So obviously when you're kind of brain dead on a shot on the course, it's obviously not nothing. It obviously costs you something. It's obviously also not a full shot because sometimes you still hit a good shot, even though you weren't really paying attention. So to me, intuitively, a quarter to a third feels about right. So if these guys like Maverick in college, when he started tracking, he was 88%. We got him up to 97% the year that he graduated off the Corn Ferry Tour. But let's just, for ease of math, say we're going to go from 90% to 95% at a scoring average of 70. That's 3.5 times around. I'm not wasting a quarter to a third of a shot. I do believe that having that mental scorecard at about 95% is about a shot. Now let's pretend we're Tiger, who I would be stunned if he was operating anything lower than 99%. I just cannot imagine there were many golf shots that Tiger hit that he wasn't fully locked in on. So now it's easy to start thinking like, dude, that's another shot above the shot we already gained. So when you start thinking about Tiger just being so good at golf, back to what you were saying a little bit too about like getting to the course and like we're just not playing as well, we're hitting more loose shots. I do believe, like, man, Tiger was just better on the golf course. He didn't hit the loose shots because he didn't have the loose brain. I really do believe that that all makes logical sense. And
What do
then
you mean by locked in though? Locked in on what exactly? Locked in on your target, locked in on your swing thought?
you know exactly what you were trying to do with the shot. And when you hit the shot, you were fully engaged in attacking your target. You weren't you weren't daydreaming. You weren't aiming 7 yards right of the flag and hoping you pull it. You weren't thinking, I don't really like this club because I don't really trust that wind. I feel like this is going to break more. You hit the putt anyways. Like you were just, I've accepted this is what I'm trying to do. And when you hit the shot, that was what you were actually trying to do.
Yeah, I track this on a 5-point scale. 0 is like just completely brain dead, and then 4 is like completely locked in, and I just get people after each shot to rank that.
And then, so that's exactly what I talked about with this player last week. I'm just like, I believe that slowing down in practice, and this would be, I agree that random potentially has a better chance of doing this than blocked. I don't disagree with that, but that does not mean you can't with blocked because I
Yeah,
certainly do. I agree with you, John.
100%. Yeah.
I'm a little neurotic, so I probably have higher on the discipline scale than the average human being.
Yeah,
Scott,
you're you're you're
you could
better
do
at it. Yeah, you're
do
just better at it.
random and disciplined as well, Scott.
Yeah, yeah,
So
of
the
course.
argument is you could do random and you could be brain dead with random as well. So random doesn't, I think it has a higher chance of making you less brain dead, but it's not a guarantee either. And I think that's where we come together is that, hey, let's not do brain dead practice. Let's hit a shot and analyze it after.
What
One thing I'm
what
big
I
on.
what I left, let me just put a bow on that. What I left that player with is I want you to have, like, write yourself just a little cheat sheet of, I'm here at home right now. And I really, when I go out and practice later, these are the things that I find important to myself. This is what I really want to focus on today. Not swinkies, and just, I want to be disciplined to my targets. I want to be disciplined in my pre shot routine. And then after every 5 or 6 shots, it's going to get monotonous as hell, but go back and read that card again. This is what I'm here to do today. And I told him, like, I want you to make one for your round of golf. These are the things I'm going to do today. I'm going to play disciplined, patient golf. I'm going to attack my targets. I'm going to not try to make putts from outside 20 feet, whatever 6 things you really want to do today, and read it 4 or 5 times throughout the round because you really want to keep reemphasizing this is what I'm here to do.
To your Tiger point on practice, I played golf with an NFL player who used to live, where did he live? In Isleworth in Orlando in his prime. So he lived there with him and knew him for years. And he said he would show up to the putting green when Tiger was working. And Tiger wouldn't even acknowledge him. Like he's like, he was in such a different, and he said it seemed like he was a jerk. He's like, you didn't even exist to him. You go to say hi, it would be like, not even you're there. And he's like, now I know him 15 years later, he's changed. He'll shake your hand and say, how are you doing? But he's like, when he was at Isleworth in those years, he's like, there was nothing. Yeah, it was as if you didn't, he's like, there was just that and nothing else existed. That's how deep it was.
Well,
And
that gets
that's
back to his meditation. I mean,
yeah.
that really does circle all to put the final bow on the whole idea. Tiger's meditation practice since he was a kid. I mean, like literally, Jada Pinkett Smith asked him in one of these playing lessons that he was doing out in LA with the celebrities, when did you start meditating? He just kind of laughed. He's like, when I was born. He's like, my mom has had me doing this since day one. And again, you're never going to catch up to him from that standpoint, but you can start your own journey. Again, I'm a big, 1% better every day guy. The definition of improvement is you becoming better than yourself, not you all of a sudden reaching Scotty Scheffler's level.
No, we're talking about a lot of people listening. It's like we want you to get from 50% to 60%. Like 60,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
these are strides everyone can make.
well, and that's what's funny is, like, I talk about all the time. Quite obviously, I'm super arrogant about how I drive the golf ball, but I do get behind every single golf shot. I swear to God, is when I was talking to this player last week, my irons are terrible. And I was like, maybe I should actually try getting behind every single shot. Maybe I should actually be engaged with my
Yeah.
irons too. Like,
What do you
it's just,
know?
it never dawned on me. Hey, what you do with your driver so well, maybe you should do that with your irons too, idiot. I play this smart guy on the internet. I just do so much dumb stuff. It's absolutely mind boggling to me sometimes.
Do as I say, not as I do, whatever that quote is.
There's a speaker I love named Jim Rohn who says about halfway through this 4 hour lecture, he's like, well, I'm sure all you in the audience are thinking, Mr. Rohn, you must have this stuff pretty well put together. He's like, I can say it. That does not mean I can do it.
Yeah, I think that's an
Doesn't mean
acknowledgement.
that doesn't
Yeah,
mean the advice is wrong though. The advice is
correct.
correct still. It's just
Correct.
really hard to do.
Everyone's a human and makes mistakes. We're not robots.
On the
I think if we put
topic
10
of
more minutes on this, you can just do a 2-parter, 1 hour
Yeah,
of
we're
driver
getting there.
shaping and
On the topic of spacing, so we've talked about taking a shot and then taking some time out between it. That does increase context. It makes it more realistic to golf. But the issue with that is then you get fewer reps, and
I
so
don't
you
know
might as
that
well
that's a
go out
bad
and
trade-off.
yeah, no, I don't think so as well. 'Cause so again, on this, I've done these posts where we show, okay, the amount of reps as one advantage versus the context. And so random practice has fewer reps. Generally, it doesn't have to, though. I mean, you can do random practice and have a ton of reps, just as many
Yeah.
reps as blocked. But the reason why that break helps us learn faster is we call it active forgetting. Because if you imagine rake and hit, let's not call it block practice, let's call it rake and hit instead. I think we're all against rake and hit. If you rake, hit, your body actually doesn't get time to forget the last movement, and it can make adjustments, and it can give you a real false sense of security. You can start, like if I'm doing rake and hit, I'm just going to have a pattern like Scotty Scheffler on the range. But then I go on the golf course and I'm obviously not Scotty Scheffler. So I found that random practice, just switching clubs and switching targets is a good way of getting that active forgetting, because you're forcing yourself effectively to switch between motor programs. So you're actually having to say, oh, what's that wedge thing I have to do? Maybe not on a conscious level, but you have to say, what is it, this wedge swing again? From a Sasha McKenzie point of view, a physics point of view, you are applying different forces and torques to a wedge versus a driver. So technically it is a different swing. If you provided the exact same forces and torques to a wedge as you did a driver, you'd miss it. So our brains are having to do these prediction things, and it's very, very good at it. So switching between these tasks, wedge to the right side, driver to the left side, I believe is a good way of getting that active forgetting and getting more reps in as well. That's just
At the
something I'd like
table.
you to
I mean,
consider, Scott, also.
again, I don't have a problem with saying that. I just think that, again, an opportunity cost of how much time do people really have. I just believe that trying to not do brain dead block practice accomplishes everything. But again, I don't have
Yeah,
a problem
we
with a word
do.
you said there.
We
Again,
agree, though.
where I get mad is only when people hold up some study saying this is why I'm right. And when I can poke a hole in that study, you don't get to use it anymore, in my opinion. I mean, again, that's just my opinion. Once a study is invalid, in my opinion, it just doesn't have any. And golf is so different than every other, even sport. It's non-reactionary. You don't play defense. You're not looking at the target when you hit the shot. There's just more to golf than any other sport. And as a result, even when people take a study from another sport, the baseball study, A, I can poke a hole in it just for even using baseball. But B, once you bring it into golf,
Yeah, but you look at the meta analyses of all of this, and also it applies across a spectrum. When you take complex, moving, open loop skills like baseball, where you're having a different thing thrown at you each time, block practice tends to apply there. But even when you go to the simpler skills like tapping on a keyboard, completely closed, completely easy, the whole spectrum between those random tends to outperform. So I'm not even full random. I'm not even telling everybody you have to do random all the time. It's actually quite a small part of my book, but all the science seems to point there. So I even question things like, hey, when I'm training beginners, I tend to use block practice tasks, right? So that I'm a block practicer when training beginners. Yet I even question that sometimes. And I was thinking about this morning. I was thinking about all the times where I've trained beginners in block practice, got them to the point on the range where I'm like, hey, this person's good enough to get on the course now. And we go on the course and they absolutely fall apart. And there's many reasons for that. But I remember when I started doing a little bit more random practice and throwing that in with beginners, their on course transference just went through the roof. It was massively improved. So even I questioned my, hey, do beginners have to do all blocked, or is random actually beneficial to those as well?
I mean, again, I just believe that the vast majority of that would be time between trials. But again, there's no. I mean, that's just my opinion. I mean, I don't sit on the range all day with beginners. I watch what tour players do, and they have their launch monitors down, which by definition means they're hitting at the exact same target. They don't change them. They just roll right up the dead center of the range. Scotty Scheffler, it doesn't matter who it is, they are not moving that TrackMan. What Scheffler does really well, and this is random practice, is he does TrackMan combines. I mean, Harrison Frazier told me that he's like, dude, that guy just sits down there and does TrackMan combines all day long.
Well,
In
Yeah,
which
here's
case,
that's kind of random. But what would you do then,
that's
Scott?
what
Say
I'm
you
saying.
have a tour
I'm
player.
agreeing. I'm
Say you
agreeing
have a
with you there.
tour player who's saying, "Look, I'm doing this block practice, and just like my on course is just horrendous." What would you recommend to them then? More block practice, or
Play more golf.
okay, some more random
so
practice? Yeah,
that
I'd
that
agree.
is so that's where I find interesting about tour players is because they have more opportunity than anyone to get on the course to practice. They do it every single week. And they're doing a lot of situational, like, they're hitting 4 or 5 chip shots to different hole locations. They're checking out bunkers. They're hitting a few iron shots. Like they have because it's their job and they have the time to do this and the course is allowing it. The other thing I think about tour players is that, no one can prove this yet, but you're dealing with a true survivorship bias, right? So like everyone showing up there gets there for, well, obviously they worked hard, but what about the 20,000 other guys who worked hard and make it? Like, I believe that there's something about them that we don't fully understand yet. I've said this a million times on the show. And I just wonder, like, is, copying what they're doing the best for a 20 handicap or 15 handicap? Right? Like there's elements you can take from it, like the engagement, the feedback absorption, but just saying like, oh, well, if, so and so, I've watched guys on the range where they're just hitting the same shot over and over again. Like I'm also looking at a bunch of normal golfers. They hit the same shot over and over again. They stink at it. So we got to do something different there, right? Like we need to change something.
Or is
You
it
have
just
to.
part of their learning curve journey? I mean,
Maybe.
Yeah, that's the point as well. We have to
Yeah.
define the
I don't
problem.
I don't have the answers to this stuff. It's just I think about it sometimes. I'm like that. I'm trying to question it, right?
When
trust
I'm
me, I
coaching,
literally don't care about this argument. I only get mad when the studies are brought up. That is the only thing that makes me mad. I couldn't
when
care less about this argument otherwise. I just hate it when someone
But we
holds a
need to
study up.
keep talking about
yeah,
it though, right?
this is a podcast. When I'm coaching this stuff, I'm looking at what is the problem with the player. If the problem is they can't hit a good shot, then block practice might be the best way. Hey, let's get to the point where you can actually hit a good shot or a shot that you define as good. If the problem is they can hit good shots, but when things go wrong, they can't change it. So say, for example, hey, I'm great on the range, but I go on the course, I hit that one shank, and then I'm done for the day. Then we need to give them a toolbox to be able to change that. And differential practice is the best for that. Now, if a player is, well, I can hit the shots, I can change stuff when it goes wrong, but I can't seem to do it on the course. Maybe they're overchanging, maybe they're underchanging. For me, that's a great example of when randomizing practice on the range would get better, because by making the task harder by randomizing it, and it is harder, hitting different targets, changing clubs is going to expose your weaknesses, right? I can stand there all day, block, rake, and hit, and just hit the Scotty Scheffler straight shot. You put me in random practice, I start to get a few more big lefts come out. So for me, doing random practice exposes the errors and then gives me opportunity to change them. And I get more iterations of that. So yeah, I could go on the course and do that, but I'm getting fewer iterations. Whereas when I'm on the range, I can get the advantage of more of those errors popping up with random practice and then a higher rep amount. So that's when I use random practice mainly.
I mean, again, the thing that I'm just not going to change my opinion on is that's just slowing down and being more engaged. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just not going to change my opinion on that, which again, I'm being explicitly saying opinion. I just attribute that exclusively to slowing down and being far more engaged. I
I think
mean,
that's the answer no matter what, right? Like
I think it's something we
that's the
all agree
takeaway
on.
for
Yeah.
that is the takeaway for everyone listening to this. Like if they
we
are,
could definitely edit out this last 10 minutes and just say
yeah,
like,
well, listen, I mean, people
well,
listening to the show are used to it at this point. We beat
when
the
I was,
horse past death.
when I when I was playing professional in my 20s, those big yellow teaching buckets, I would have one of those airborne by 10 o'clock every single day. And I thought I was working hard. And it's like I was exercising hard, but I certainly wasn't working on my game. And but that was how I felt. And again, my dad was always like, "You hit balls way too fast," but he never told me the why. And the why is that art, that dance of coming in from behind the ball, getting aligned to your target, having the ball position, having that trigger. That's the art. I mean, I heard on Tim Ferriss's podcast one time he was saying that music is the space between the notes. Like anyone can play but anyone can play the notes. It's being able to put that all together into a song is what makes it great. And that's to me the difference in great golf and whatever your ability is. Your great golf is explicitly you just being able to get that range game onto the course better. And I think that just comes from slowing down.
Yeah, it's the hardest. I mean, it's probably the most common question that I've gotten over the years, and I'm sure you have, is why do I hit it so well on the range, but when I get on the course, that player is nowhere to be found? And it's because you're not respecting the difference between the environments. You're not trying to match them up as close as you can, which is difficult to do. And yeah, I think it gives you like a false sense of security of like what your potential is, but then you're not, again, respecting that on the golf course when you have one chance to do it and you have scoring pressure or just distracting playing partners or all the other things that are tugging at you on the course that are not tugging at you on the range. Like that's accessing your playing skill more often.
You've never stood on a driving range and thought, don't go left. Not a single time in your entire life. Now, if you've ever thought that on the course, you are by definition not getting your range game on the course because you
Yeah.
don't have your range game.
Yep.
You've also never stood on a range and thought, I hope I pull this 5 yards, as if I'm aiming away from a flag. I'm aiming to the right of a flag. And I'm still kind of hoping I hit it close, though, as opposed to letting the natural variance within your shot pattern. By definition, if you're good at centering your shot pattern over your target, half left and half right, about half the time you're going to pull it. You don't have to hope you pull it. Half the time you're going to pull it. And that's really what great golf and strategy is understanding that fact. And I'm telling you, 100% of the tour players that I've worked with, when we get to this point in the conversation and I say, so now here's our target 5 yards right on the shot, and you actually have to try to hit it there. You can't think, I hope I pull this a little bit. 100% of them have laughed because they're like, dude, I do that 7 times around. There's no chance Tiger did that a single time in his career. That's a difference. That's a huge difference.
I separate them out. Target to me is where you want the ball to finish. Aim to me is what you're talking about, like aiming more to the right side and actively trying to hit it to that point. And yeah, teaching to separate those two out is very difficult. Yeah.
We don't have good, it's strange to me. We do not have consistent definitions of aim and target. To me, is where I want the ball to finish. Now, my body lines are left of where I want the ball to finish. So most people think I'm aiming left. And I'm like, no, I'm just accounting for the fact that my ball is going to finish 15 yards right of where it starts. Because from what I teach lefties, righties, drawers, faders. I'm just saying, this is where I want you to get the ball to. I don't care how you get it there.
Yeah.
Well,
And
to me,
that
I think of it like shooting an arrow or shooting a gun at a bullseye. The target is always the middle of the bullseye. Where you aim is going to be adjusted based on wind, what your patterns are, maybe the lie. So I adjust the aim, and the aim, like I said, say my target is
Nothing
the
wrong with
middle of
that.
the green. That's where I want the ball to finish. On average, the flag could be left side of the green, but I might want the ball to finish middle of the green. Then my aim might be more the right side of the green because maybe the wind is going left, or maybe my pattern is more left that day, or maybe the ball is above my feet slightly. So that's
I
how I
think that's
separate them.
And I think that's perfect because you understand how you define those terms. One thing
That's how I
I
get
did
all
not
my players to.
realize
Yeah.
until I went down and worked with Norman Zhang, the first hole, I was like, here's your target. And he's like, well, where do I aim? And I was like, there? I mean, but he was like, well, he's like, I only see the start line. And I was like, I never knew that because at this point, I mean, I only saw where I want the ball to finish and I just got it there. There's different ways that players see start line, players see this, players see shape. Everyone's different. And like I say, that's why we don't have a universal definition of aim and target and everything, like, because everyone sees it differently.
No, I think it would screw a lot of people up, and it would if they're good at it intuitively. So if someone was poor at it, then having them take a step back, being like, "Where are you trying to hit this? Like, let's break this down of like your alignment. Where you're, that is helpful." But if you ask players who are already good at it to deconstruct it, they'd be like, "Wait a second, I don't even know."
And sometimes it's maybe making it more complicated than it needs to. Like, I don't know, I
Yes,
just intuitively
exactly.
do it.
You're
Martin
removing their
Flores,
athleticism.
one year, Martin Flores got off to a really good start on the Corn Fair Tour. He finished like fourth, third, and then he kind of didn't play well for a couple of months. And he calls me one day. He's like, dude, I'm just hitting everything right. And he just sounded mental. I'm like, hey, let's go out to Bent Tree. They'll have a little lunch. We'll talk. And we'll just go play again. I don't teach mechanics. But now we go out on the range. He's warming up, and I just go to watch him. And he's taking this little bucket of balls with an 8-iron. And he's putting about 15 feet right of the flag he's aiming at. And he's like, everything is going right. And I'm like, can you not just open up about 15 yards and do the exact same thing? And he literally did that and then just started placing the balls right by the flag. I'm like, that seems like a pretty simple fix to me. If everything's going right, you're just not centering your shot pattern over your target. He literally won the next week on the Corn Ferry Tour. This guy went from freaking out, I'm hitting everything right, to let's just stand a little more open and do the exact same thing. He was striping it for months and just hitting everything right because he wasn't lined up correctly, which is why he needs to block practice.
No, I would say he needs to random practice there. I would say he needs to line up to a target, check that he feels okay, then put an alignment stick down on the ground, step back and check it. He'll quickly see,
Yeah.
oh, crap, I'm aimed to the right there, and then go through that process over and over until his alignment matches his perception. If he just sticks a stick down on the ground, he might be not change the perception because of the mindless practice. For people, what I found, Scott, is when people put an alignment stick on the ground, they stop looking up to check the target and they stop mentally connecting to the target as much. That's why my informal studies showed
I don't have a problem
the
with
other
that.
method kind of improved it better because of the perceptual elements.
I don't have a problem with believing that. And that's why I say, but that's not what I'm talking about with block practice, which I think I think we all agree with. That's not my version of that's crappy block practice.
We should have had people do a drinking game before the show started.
I've been
Anytime
drinking
someone
the whole
says
time. You not?
block, I have a bottle of water that I've been going through, and I don't know how my bladder's holding up at this point. This is a professional podcasting.
This is
Yeah,
the Joe Rogan experience.
yeah,
You
exactly.
have no idea how much I want to lie to you, Adam, and say that Martin Flores used to random practice all the time until I got him to switch, but I won't do that for you.
Well, listen, I can't imagine there's a right answer for everyone, right? Like the whole goal, as we stated, is like your goal as a ball striker is to tighten your shot pattern and perhaps changing it and getting out of your comfort zone. You got to make some change. And then the answer is like, what makes that ellipsis or circle, whatever the hell it is, smaller and tighter? There's your answer. Go towards that. And it might change at times too. Like golf changes on us all the time.
Again, I don't disagree with that
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Okay. Shall we wrap a bow on this thing?
Yeah, I think it's 2 episodes.
It probably is.
I mean, we stopped talking. We switched to this at 58 minutes.
I don't
And we're
remember
doing
where
fine right
we've
now.
gone to bring up the drowsiness thing. I got
We've done
excited for
shape
like
shots,
80% of the
shaping it,
episode.
tournament prep, and random practice we've done.
I feel like we've lost everyone, but I've had a blast. I've really enjoyed this.
No, there's some people who make it to the end. I know they do. Well, Scott, obviously, where can everyone find all the stuff you're doing in Decade?
Just decade.golf right now. And you guys, don't you guys have a promo code, don't you?
Yeah, Sweet Spot. I think, yeah, Sweet Spot gives you what, like 30% off?
I think it's 30% off. Yeah.
Okay, we'll put that in the show notes. We always have a nice discount for our guests sometimes. I mean,
Yeah.
in all seriousness, like you mentioned my book earlier in the episode and helping golfers who are shooting higher scores. Like your name is all over the book, Scott. You've helped me tremendously. You know, I respect your coaching style and what you've brought to the game as a great communicator. And I enjoyed this. I think it was
Yeah, I
fun
did as well.
because we're finally giving nuance and context and exploring things that, you know, sometimes sound bites and quick clips on the internet do not provide and getting lost in the comments section, right?
Well, I mean, again, I really love both you guys. And I think what I really like about Adam is, though, even though we disagree on some stuff, we definitely find common ground. But regardless, we do it somewhat respectfully. And, you know, my problem with like Luke is he just comes out and just completely starts trying to discredit my work. And I'm like, again, well, if I can show you mathematically where you're wrong, you should probably delete your post. And to just leave it up, I just lose all respect for somebody when they do that. Whereas Adam and I, we can be like, well, I disagree with you on this. Again, there is common ground, but I just disagree with you. And that's where I feel like I'm very quick to say, this is my opinion. This is my anecdotal experience, because I'm not an instructor and I do pretty much only work with the top 500 players on the planet. I don't see what you see. Now, what I will say is my Wolf game is full with a bunch of 5 to 12 handicaps. So I'm getting to see a lot worse golf in the last 2 years than I've seen in the previous 30 combined, because my wolf game at my old course was nothing but one and better handicaps. So I'm definitely getting into a much broader view of like, oh my God, y'all do
Yeah.
some really dumb stuff out there. We could
Uh,
clean this up really quick.
yeah, there's a lot of low hanging fruit there. So as always, it was fun. We went in a million different directions. Adam, where can everyone find your stuff?
adamyounggolf.com/8WK. That was for my 8-week course that's coming up on 1st of May. Get in before it's too late. This is going to come out before then, right?
I hope so. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
there could be 17 episodes from this one. You can check out my YouTube channel, John Sherman Golf, and my new one, Golf Gear Explained. If you made it this far, thank you. We appreciate your enthusiasm, your feedback, your comments on the show, and we'll see you next time with a new episode.